Faites l'appel, s'il vous plaît, Monsieur le greffier.
Monsieur le Sénateur Gorst.
Présent.
Monsieur le Sénateur Farnham.
Présent.
Madame la Sénateur Ferguson.
Présente.
Monsieur le Sénateur Lefebvre.
Chief Minister's also joining me, but I suppose you could move.
Madame la Sénateur Valois.
Présente.
Madame la Sénateur Moore.
Présente.
Monsieur le Sénateur Palace.
Présent.
Monsieur le Sénateur Mezek.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Helier. Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Clément.
Présent.
Madame le Connétable de Saint-Laurent.
Bailiff's City.
Didn't quite get that. Madame le Connétable de Saint-Laurent.
Présente.
Madame le Connétable de Saint-Sever.
Présente.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Brelade. Monsieur le Connétable de Gruville.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Jean.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de la Trinité.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Pierre.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Sainte-Marie.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Maur.
Présent.
Madame le Connétable de Saint-Martin.
Présente.
Madame le Député Martin.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Southern.
Présent.
Madame le Député de Gruville.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Lewis.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Tadier.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Higgins.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Masson.
Présent.
Madame le Député Pennell.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député de Saint-Martin.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député de Saint-Maur.
Présent.
Madame le Député Durley.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Larry.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Wickenden.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député de Sainte-Marie.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Truscott.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Young.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Ash.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Morrell.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Guida.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député de Saint-Pierre.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député de la Trinité.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député de Saint-Jean. Madame le Député Legra.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Aye.
Présent.
Madame le Député Péchal. Monsieur le Député Ward.
Présent.
Madame le Député Alves.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Pamplin.
Présent.
Madame le Député Gardner.
Présente.
Monsieur le doyen.
Notre soit au nom de Dieu qui a fait le ciel et la terre. Amen. Seigneur Dieu, Père éternel et tout-puissant, qui a établi le gouvernement et la puissance de la terre, pour le règlement et pour la conduite du peuple, et qui nous a commandé d'avoir toujours bu la gloire de ton Saint-Nom. Nous te prions qu'il te plaise de donner à cette assemblée le don de conseil et de prudence, d'unir le cœur et les affections de tous ceux qui la composent, et de la conduire tellement toi-même par ton Saint-Esprit, que toute l'heure de libération est accompagnée de ta bénédiction. Réussisse au bien et au soulagement du peuple, qu'il te plût de commettre à le soin. Car nous t'en prions au nom et par les mérites de ton Fils bien-aimé Jésus-Christ, notre Seigneur, qui nous a enseigné de t'invoquer en disant: Notre Père, qui es aux cieux, ton nom soit sanctifié, ton règne vienne. Ta volonté soit faite dans la terre comme au ciel. Donne-nous aujourd'hui notre pain quotidien, et nous pardonnons nos offenses, comme nous pardonnons à ceux qui nous ont offensés. Et ne nous envoie pas en tentation, mais délivre-nous du mal. Car à toi la règne, la puissance et la gloire, au siècle des siècles. Amen.
Monsieur le Sénateur Lefondre.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Hélier.
Excusez.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Brelade.
Excusez.
Monsieur le Député de Saint-Jean.
Présent.
Madame le Député Pershaw.
Malade.
Malade.
Je jure que Madame la députée Pershaw est tellement indisposée qu'elle ne peut pas assister aux tâches sans exposer sa santé. Les états sont en nombre, Monsieur le Président.
Les États sont constitués. Turning now to the consolidated order paper. On behalf of members, I should like to welcome His Excellency, the Lieutenant Governor, to the Chamber this afternoon. Before we start, I would also like to pay tribute to Rory Steele from Digital Jersey, who has supported these online sittings since they began, particularly the presiding officer in using Teams since April. Rory has helped train the staff of the States GREF to use this new technology, which I expect will be with us in one form or another for some time to come. Rory will be focusing fully on his Digital Jersey commitments from now on. So when we resume our sittings in the autumn, he will no longer be with us. So I thank him today for his work. Thanks, I'm sure, will be echoed by all members. There are a number of subordinate enactments under B and a number of documents laid or presented under C. As to the notification of lodged propositions under D, P75, Senators and Deputies Removal of Citizen Requirements, amendment was lodged on the 7th of July by Deputy Tadia. P75, Senators and Deputies Removal of Citizen Requirement, second amendment was lodged on the 7th of July by Deputy Higgins. P79, Green Lanes and Quiet Lanes, priority to pedestrians, cyclists and horse riders, amendment lodged on the 7th of July by the Comité des Connétables. P80, extended limits of co-payments for GP consultations, young people and pregnant women, amendment lodged on the 7th of July by Deputy Alves. P81, GP fees and income support, amendment lodged on the 7th of July by Deputy Southern. P86, minimum outpricing of alcohol and drinks promotions, was lodged on the 2nd of July by Deputy Ash. P87, draft COVID-19 control of testing Jersey regulations, lodged on the 2nd of July by the Minister for Health and Social Services. P88, enhanced COVID-19 exit strategy communications, lodged on the 7th of July by Deputy Pamplin. P88, enhanced COVID-19 exit strategy communications amendment, lodged on the 10th of July by the Minister for Health and Social Services. P89, open borders arrangements, lodged on the 7th of July by Deputy Young. P89, open borders arrangements amendment, lodged on the 10th of July by the Chief Minister. P90, Jersey Heritage Trust appointment of chair, lodged on the 8th of July by the Minister for Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture.
Sir.
Yes.
Farnham.
Senator Farnham?
Sir, I'm sorry, I just wondered, to the best of my knowledge, there are two propositions on there, P89 and P90, that I believe are going to, the approval of the Assembly is going to be sought to discuss them at this session. I just wanted to ask when the appropriate time to do that, to ask that question would be. Thank you, sir.
That will be either at the end of today's business, after all questions, or first thing tomorrow before we come to debate the public business.
Thank you, sir.
And the final lodged proposition, P91, mobile speed cameras, lodged on the 10th of July by the Conotab of St John. There is nothing under E, F, G, H. There are, I think, 26 written questions under the next reference. And before we come to oral questions, I think that Deputy Martin, you wish to say something about your availability later on today?
So may I also say something on the propositions, lodged propositions? It's Deputy Human.
Yes, but I call on Deputy Martin first, so I'll hear from her first. Deputy Martin?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And I think you answered the question. The intention today is to finish questions. Unfortunately, I have a long-standing medical appointment. It's not till 5:45 and I'm working from Broad Street. So it's just to say to members, if in questions without notice for the hour they want something from the Social Security Minister, get them in quick. And I'm ever so sorry, but it wasn't scheduled and I've had this appointment for a long time. And I am where we are. So I am where I am, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Deputy St Peter?
Yes, sir, thank you. I lodged an amendment to P82, which I don't see as documented.
Thank you very much. Well, we'll look into that and deal with that later on today.
Thank you, sir.
So we now come on to oral questions with notice, for which 120 minutes are allowed. And the first question Deputy Higgins has for the President of the Scrutiny Liaison Committee. Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. Will the President explain why her committee decided to lodge an amendment to a safer travel period, States Assembly approval P84/2020 in its own name, and advise whether any consideration was given to the possibility of it being lodged by a committee member in their own name?
Senator Moore.
Thank you, sir. I can refer Deputy Higgins to the answer provided to his written question number 275, which explains that further to the lodging of the safer travel period on 26th of June, a briefing held with the Ministers for External Relations and Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture, and our observations of associated scrutiny-related and more general activity and commentary on the broader issue, the committee agreed to lodge the amendment to P84. The committee was mindful of our remit primarily as a coordinating and oversight body, but agreed that due to the extremely compromised timeframe and far-reaching cross-cutting nature of the proposition, lodging such an amendment in the committee's name would be an exceptional but expedient and an appropriate approach in the circumstances. No consideration was given by the committee to a member lodging the amendment in their own name. In the absence of time for any individual or cross-cutting scrutiny panel to establish a review and consult in a meaningful way, the overarching objective of the amendment was to draw on the knowledge and experience of the chairs representing each panel remit to encourage constructive debate on such an important topic. This is something that we are very satisfied to have contributed to, with many members choosing to speak in an extremely informed and thought-provoking way on the proposed amendments.
Supplementary, sir?
Yes.
Is the President aware that the media refer to her as the head of scrutiny, and that many members of the public believe that when she brings propositions or speaks in that capacity, that she is representing the views of all scrutiny members, which of course you do not, and members were not generally consulted about the proposition you brought forward on that particular day?
So I can only reiterate that there was a very compressed time period. We tried and endeavoured to communicate that through the various chairs to panel members so that there could be a knowledge shared. And I believe I sent an email at some point to scrutiny members so that they were aware of what was occurring. But at the time we did what we thought was the most expedient and the best possible way. Essentially, we had to conduct this over the space of a weekend, and due to the subject matter falling across many different panels and there not being the time provided, as I said in my original answer, it was the best way to approach the situation, which was highly extraordinary.
Question 2, Senator
Sir,
Moore.
can I have the final supplementary?
Well, no, only if other members have asked questions. Senator Moore, question 2 for the Minister for Treasury and Resources. Senator Moore.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister confirm how much the Government of Jersey spends annually on shipping costs?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. It is very difficult to ascertain the true shipping costs paid by government annually, as this is complex in nature. Predominantly, most goods purchased are inclusive of shipping and duty costs, so these are not easily identified from management information. A large proportion of our procured goods are from on-island suppliers who do not separate a price out for the cost of inbound freight. Where freight is charged separately, this is recorded at an individual purchase order level. There were approximately 80,000 purchase orders issued in 2019, and therefore, without reviewing each of those orders, it is difficult to ascertain the total amount paid. Commercial services have identified £65,000 worth of expenditure in 2019 for inbound freight with local shipping suppliers, and in the region of £700,000 for exporting solid waste. Freight prices fluctuate depending on size of shipment, volume, transport method, border controls, and type of goods being sent. So an average annual amount of expenditure is very difficult to define, as there are so many variables to consider.
I thank
Supplementary?
No, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Question 3, Deputy Southern will ask of the Minister for Social Security. Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise whether, as a result of any discussions by the Council of Ministers, she is considering moving away from the red lines she had laid down in respect of changes to benefits, and will she maintain a commitment not to cut benefits this year?
Minister.
Thank you, and I thank the Deputy for his questions. No, I'm not moving away from my red lines, and yes, I will maintain a commitment not to cut benefits for this year. Thank you.
Supplementary, if I may say, sir.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, a commitment not to cut. Does that contain the possibility of a freeze?
Minister.
So the Deputy asked me something similar in a written question of today. All the red lines are there that I have, and it all depends on further discussions and policy discussions with the Council of Ministers, and I'm not committing to either way on that one yet, sir. Thank you.
Either way on that, being reduce or freeze.
Right. Question 4, the Connotab of St Martin will ask the Minister for Health and Social Services.
So I had a question there. Sorry, I have asked for a question in the chat to follow up from Deputy Southern.
My chat, maybe my chat's, I haven't got anything. Yes, sorry, my chat isn't showing any questions at all at the moment.
I think there's one from Deputy Ward, sir, and Deputy Alves as well.
Yes, sorry, my chat is not functioning properly. Well, forgive me, I'll have my chat looked at. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. And I know this is not an easy situation. Can I ask the Minister whether, given that COVID-19 response will go over a number of years in terms of economics, is one of her red lines that there will not be reductions in future years in social security? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
So to clarify, Deputy Southern, it was no cuts, and I can't talk for future years. We are literally talking about what we're doing for next year, sir, and I can't commit to other new Assembly members, new Social Security ministers. COVID, the Deputy's right, will have a knock-on effect for many years. Thank you.
Supplementary, Deputy Ward.
Yes, thank you, sir. And in terms of social security payments, has the Minister considered to ease the burden on those people who may have long-standing repayments of overpayments that wasn't their own fault? This would be one way to improve their lives at this time of considerable need. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And the Deputy has asked me this question about overpayments. No, every case can be considered. It can be a very minimum amount, but at the end of the day, I'm recollecting taxpayers' money, which has just gone through the roof, sir. Thank you.
Deputy Alves, do you have a question?
Deputy Ward actually asked my question, so no, thank you, sir.
My chat is still frozen. Does anyone else have a question before I ask Deputy Southern for his final supplementary? Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister maintain index linking or even raise benefits above the RPI in order to compensate better for income distribution inequalities?
Again, sir, the Deputy wants me to commit to something that's still up for discussion. The Deputy knows it's still up for discussion. And again, the bill is just getting bigger. More and more people. I don't know what's going to happen next month, next week. So I can't commit to that. I'm very sorry. Thank you.
Question for the Deputy of St Martin. So the Conotab of St Martin has for the Minister for Health and Social Services. Conotab of St Martin.
Thank you, sir. Further to the response to written question 46/2020, will the Minister provide a date for the reopening of the assisted reproduction unit? Will he confirm that the same level of service that was available in December 2019 prior to the closure of the unit will be provided? And if not, why not?
Minister.
Sir, I can confirm that I and Health and Community Services are fully committed to reopening the assisted reproductive unit after the temporary COVID closure, and we have a target date to start services again from next Monday, 20th of July, and I confirm the unit will provide all previous services offered prior to COVID. Thank you, sir.
Any supplementary?
Am I allowed one, sir?
Yes, you are.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm relieved and delighted, and I was mindful of the fact, without keeping a very close eye on the service, we may well have lost it. I am very interested to know that, and I did hear at the end, at the 11th hour, there was a meeting, and the unit is going to be moved to Overdale. How is it feasible to set up a unit in a week? And I'm very happy if they can do that, but I just wanted the feasibility of it. Thank you.
Minister.
I've not been made aware, sir, of exactly where the service will be provided. Perhaps I don't need to, but there has been a lot of reconfiguration within the hospital building due to COVID. This may be a temporary position, if it is to happen at all. But the important thing is that the service is restarting after COVID disruption, and it is offering all the services it did previously. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Question 5, Deputy Iyer will ask of the Minister for Treasury and Resources. Deputy Iyer.
Thank you.
the Minister advise the Assembly whether she's considering the removal of the retail?
Deputy R, you're very muffled. Do you want to get a bit closer to your microphone?
Indeed, sir.
Well, thank you. It's better.
Thank you. Will the Minister advise the Assembly whether she is considering the removal of the retail tax as part of the government stimulus package in order to promote economic growth for local businesses? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I'm grateful to the Deputy for confirming that he is referring to the so-called large corporate retailers tax, which taxes the profits of retailers only when they exceed £500,000. This tax was introduced in Budget 2018 at the request of the Assembly during its budget debate in December 2016. It resolved the long-standing complaint that some high street retailers owned offshore paid no taxes in Jersey. 2018 was the first year of assessment. Early analysis of corporate income tax return suggests that the tax is on track to deliver more than £7 million, some £1.3 million more than originally forecast. The large corporate retailers tax is a tax on profitability and not on turnover. The charge applies only to taxable profits exceeding £500,000. That is to say, profits after all business expenses are deducted. If a retailer does not achieve this level of taxable profits, then there is no tax to pay. The rate of taxation is also gradually tapered above the £500,000 threshold, so that the full rate of 20% is only paid if taxable profits reach £750,000. For example, a business with taxable profits of £501,000 pays income tax of £600, 0.1%, and one with taxable profits of £750,000 pays £150,000 at 20%. Sir, I am not considering removal of the retail tax as part of the government stimulus package. The tax applies only to a retail business when it is very profitable. Our fiscal stimulus package is designed to have much broader application, putting money into the pockets of all islanders. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary, Deputy Iyer?
Yes, thank you, sir. I doubt very much that the retail tax will be bringing in £7 million this year. With more large retail premises lying empty due to the pandemic, would not a reduction in the retail tax attract new companies to open in Jersey? Thank you, sir.
Yes, I thank the Deputy. It's a very reasonable question, but there's only so much that can be done in a short space of time. And as this was agreed by the Assembly for 2018, it would not be possible to bring back something that would have a swift effect at the moment. And this affects a very few number of large retailers. So, and it is only on profits over £500,000, as I mentioned before.
Deputy Tadier.
Yeah, does the Minister agree that one of the successful areas of business, one of the successful sectors was the food sale market, which reported a massive growth in their revenue due to COVID when everybody was on island and spending money and stocking up? And does she think that it was really lucky that we had voted for this retail tax so that some of those profitable companies could then contribute much needed tax at this current time back into the coffers?
Minister.
Yes, thank you. Of course, this wasn't on the cards in 2018. It's come as a global shock to everybody. So it wasn't introduced for that reason. And as I keep saying, these are large retailers. And as the Deputy mentioned, certainly in food and drink retail, then the retail companies have done quite well in the current circumstances, and they are not taxed on profits under £500,000.
Deputy Morel.
Deputy Morel.
Thank you, sir. I was wondering, would the Minister be able to advise the Assembly as to whether or not an inflation impact analysis has been undertaken with regard to the retail tax to see whether it has had any impact on prices in Jersey?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. We're doing all sorts of impact assessments, which we may not necessarily have been doing without the current situation. But in order to produce the budget and forecasting for the government plan, then there are a lot of impact assessments being conducted at the moment.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Yes.
Amongst all those impact assessments, is one of them about the retail tax?
Not necessarily totally about the retail tax, sir, but that comes under the whole equation of taxation, which of course for 2021, or 2020 and 2021, is predicted to be much, much lower than anticipated in the previous government plan. So all sorts of taxation are being analysed.
Thank you. Final supplementary, Deputy Iyer.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister agree that in this time of recession, we need to encourage high street retail businesses and not discourage them? Thank you, sir.
I completely agree with the Deputy, sir. Yes, of course we should encourage them. And we have done a huge amount so far with the, as the Deputy will be aware, with the deferral of GST and social security payments and the co-payroll funding scheme, which has helped businesses enormously over the last few months when any business and retail has been very, very difficult. Thank you, sir.
Question 6, Deputy Gardner will ask of the Minister for Health and Social Services. Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise what progress, if any, has been made with regard to providing free, dedicated parking spaces for hospital staff in Patriotic Street car park?
Minister.
So the Minister for Infrastructure has recently replied to a petition on this identical subject, and I share with all those who have supported the petition my own appreciation of everything staff in health and social care have done during the past few months. They've been a source of pride and a credit to our island. So it's the case that during the earlier stages of the Safe Exit strategy, the Department of Growth, Housing and Environment generously gave over the use of Patriotic Street car park to support the hospital, and also 2 laybys on Victoria Avenue to support the Nightingale wing. While traffic volumes were lower during the lockdown, the impact of this on the St Helier environment and economy was small. Now that businesses are opening and more cars are on the road and need parking spaces, we need to find the right balance between the priorities of healthcare workers and those of the wider community. The two are linked. Taxes paid by business help pay for our healthcare services. And so I would point out that staff parking in Patriotic Street is not free, though there's no charge to staff, but Health and Community Services Department pay to the car parking fund for the lease of those spaces. Were we to take on more free spaces, then this would need to come from the healthcare budget, and therefore other costs would need to be reprioritised. Hope that answers the question, sir. Thank you.
Supplementary, Deputy Gardner.
Yes, thank you, sir. I'm a bit surprised from the answer because during the lockdown, there were exchange of emails that looked at this, and I was thinking that some of the progress has been made. So during the last scrutiny hearing, Infrastructure Minister said that they are not ready to subsidize health department, and from my perspective, it's the silo thinking that we are trying to avoid. So would the Minister advise if he had any joint meeting with Infrastructure and Treasury to find a solution for provision dedicated and free parking space to the hospital staff?
Minister.
So I've not personally met with the Infrastructure or Treasury Ministers, but I know that there have been discussions between health community service officers and infrastructure officers about the car parking around the hospital, because it is very constrained, and we are making better use of the parking we have on the hospital site. That is freeing up for patients and people who need to go to and from the hospital during working hours. I'm also keen to see more space set aside in Patriotic Street car park, if possible, for visitors to the hospital, particularly those who might be disabled, and sort of renal patients who need to attend appointments, blood donors, etc. There's some limited capacity for them there. As to staff parking, well, there are huge numbers of staff who were using it. I think 400 to 500 spaces were being used for staff parking. That would occupy most of the, that is during the COVID emergency. If we took over the car park, it would occupy most of the car park if all those wish to come and use it. And the question arises, is it appropriate to provide free parking for staff, much as I would love to? And what would happen to the displaced traffic? Because all that traffic is out there now, it is building up again. So we've got to find that balance, how best to use that car park and island resources. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. The Minister partly answered my first supplementary question, which is how many spaces in Patriotic Street were set aside for use by health and social services staff, and how many were regularly used during that period?
So 500 spaces were set aside for healthcare workers. The car park has 610 spaces in total. Occupancy was typically between 300 and 400 vehicles per day. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Yes.
With that in mind, what initiatives are being undertaken by the Health Department to encourage staff to find alternative methods of transport to work at the hospital in order to reduce the need for parking?
Minister.
In the same way, we are encouraging all of islanders to consider alternative means. We are encouraging the use of bicycles and public transport where it's appropriate to use that. We have installed additional bike racks on the hospital site, and we have repurposed the park on the hospital site to those who strictly may need it, either because they are clinicians who are moving between a community setting and need to call in to a ward and then move away again, or staff who may have mobility issues and the like. So we're looking at the need to use spaces on the hospital site, but those spaces are limited. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Is this not a question, sir, of the treatment of our healthcare professionals who we stood outside and clapped, and now we aren't giving parking to? And would it not be a solution to offer a parking permit of the type that states members have, for example, or to offer cheap subsidised access to electric bikes or bus services in order to show our appreciation of the work done by these members of our community that we've relied on so far? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Yes, sir. So just because we're moving through the stages of lockdown and the car park has been returned to its previous use doesn't mean that we don't want to consider how we might support healthcare workers. The question of their terms and conditions is not one that I am able to determine, but it is a matter of the State Employment Board. But those sort of discussions are constantly ongoing, and I can take up some of those ideas and pass them on. Of course, I would like to support healthcare workers, but I'm sure the same argument could be made for many other classes of workers who've given great service during the recent emergency. Thank you, sir.
A brief supplementary, sir, if I may.
Yes.
Does the Minister know whether the £100 voucher could be used to pay for parking? Thank you.
Minister.
I don't know. It could be used to pay for a season ticket, quite possibly. I can't give a precise answer on that, sir. Sorry.
Deputy Doublé.
Thank you, sir. The Minister has slightly answered what I was going to ask, but what I wanted to know is, could this measure be potentially looked at as a part of a package of things to improve the terms and conditions of healthcare workers? And has the Minister had any dialogue with healthcare workers or their representatives about what things they would like to see, either free parking or other things, to improve their working lives and ultimately help to make them more productive and happier in their work?
Minister.
So I would like to support healthcare workers. We've, I think, come to a realization in recent months of just how valuable they are. We've clapped them on many Thursday evenings, so they need to be properly rewarded in our society. Not just the healthcare workers employed by HCS or specifically those working in the hospital, but let's remember there are lots of other healthcare workers. For example, those who have worked in care homes around the island and kept those residents safe, they also need to be recognised. So I would certainly be for enhancing that role, not just for the sake and rewarding it, not just for the sake of those presently in those positions, but to make that profession more attractive to work in and solve some of our recruitment issues. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Yes.
And what does the Minister see as the first step in that potential piece of work then? Would it be for him to have a conversation with the Vice Chair of SCB, perhaps? And if he does think that's the first step, when would he be able to do this?
Minister.
So, yes, I will have a meeting or a talk with the Vice Chair of SCB, but this is not just something for the Health Minister to organise. I think this is an island-wide wish, how we wish to place our healthcare workers from the top consultant down to the ward cleaner, how we're going to treat them and regard them within our community. And I think this is something that's going to be coming forward in the months ahead. You know, we will just have to find ways of reflecting the worth that we want to place on them. But I will have that discussion as the Deputy has suggested.
Deputy Gardner, final supplementary.
Thank you, sir. I'm not sure if Minister is aware about fines, parking fines that were issued for the nurses and doctors from emergency units, for example, from special care baby unit, because they were late on their night shift to put the new parkings. And I would like to ask Minister if he would reconsider to check possible practical arrangements and support instead of appreciation and clapping, which is also important, but I'm talking about practical support for hospital staff, or at least ones who work at emergency units and needed to pay fine parkings before or to ask to waive them, just to avoid this extra stress during their work.
Minister.
So I wasn't aware of any fines that had been imposed, and I assume that this has occurred since the car parks became chargeable once again. So just in the, was that the 1st of July, I think?
To clarify, it was before the parking, and it would be now as well as it's normal work of emergency units.
I understand the Deputy. So it will be if somebody has been unavoidably detained and overrun their parking time. We're all subject to the law, that is the trouble, but then but I can understand why an exemption, or I would hope that parking officers would not prosecute if confirmation can be obtained that somebody was detained by duties, necessary duties in the hospital. So we'll inquire how we support our staff in that way, and I will report back to the Deputy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
No more questions.
Question 7, Deputy Ward will put to the Minister for Treasury and Resources. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, will the Minister advise how much funding has been allocated to hotels to pay for quarantine since lockdown began, and what future spending, if any, is planned in this area? And will she circulate for members a list of any hotels that have either received or are due to receive such funding? Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. As of the latest weekly update, about £358,000 has been spent so far by Health and Community Services to support accommodation for key workers who needed to isolate from other people in their household, had recently arrived from the UK, or had a confirmed or suspected case of COVID-19. Further costs are anticipated as part of the island's test and trace programme, and detailed forecasts are in the process of being developed. To the second part of the question of the Deputy, the government will publish a list of the suppliers that receive funding, which will be circulated to members. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary.
Just very quickly, sir, it was just to ask what the criteria are for choosing the hotels. Is it on availability of rooms, etc., although it strikes me that quite a few hotels may have available rooms? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. From what I understand, the accommodation is provided to support essential workers who need to physically distance themselves from vulnerable people in their own households, or are required to self-isolate in line with public health guidance. So it's really quite a strict structure. And initially the premises were booked using the Government of Jersey's travel provider, and some accommodation providers offered free rooms for healthcare workers.
Question number 8. Question number 8, Deputy Massar will ask our Her Majesty's Attorney General.
Sorry, sir, I had put Deputy Morrell here. I had put in the chat.
Well, give me Deputy Morrell.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I've had representations from local hotel owners who were overlooked by the government when it came to booking hotels. And so I was wondering if the Minister could explain how hotels were chosen with regard to booking accommodation with them for these workers, and whether any consideration was given for smaller locally owned hotels, which are not part of chains, whether locally owned chains or international chains.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. From what I understand, the sites were selected following a process managed by Commercial Services that evaluated each site against the criteria of commercial viability, proximity to the hospital, availability of additional services, food, laundry, health and safety, and self-service options. So it was quite a strict criteria in order to evaluate which properties could be considered. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary? Yes, yep. Please. Thank you, sir. Were any rooms provided free of charge? And if so, what consideration was given for accepting these in terms of the lack of economic stimulus this gives to the island?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I'm not aware that any were presented as free of charge, or what was charged at all. So this was done by Commercial Services. So I don't have any more information, but have said to the questioner that the list of the accommodations will be provided to members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Higgins.
Yes, thank you, sir. Just following up on Deputy Morrell, will the Minister produce for members a written document showing the criteria and how each of the hotels match that together with the amount of money that was paid to them, please?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. This is work that will have to be done with Health Community Services, who are the ones supporting the key workers, certainly. So there's no, I was going to say no time, but there's certainly no intention at the very moment to do that sort of work, but I'm sure it can be done in the future.
It's just in the interest of transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a final supplementary, Deputy Ward?
Thank you, sir. Yes, I thought I was going to miss it, but I think I haven't. It was just to ask for a timescale on when the list of the spends would be, and whether actually we could include what has been asked for by Deputy Higgins, i.e. the criteria as to why the effective contract would have been given. Thank you, sir.
Minister?
Thank you, sir. All I can say is that I can ask if that information can be given, but of course a lot of the information is confidential as to why the hotels were evaluated. So I can't promise anything from where I stand at the moment, but I will ask what can be done. Thank you.
I think a timescale was asked for, Minister.
Well, I was reflecting that in my answer, sir, that I don't know what can be achieved in what timescale, because it's quite a large piece of work, and there's quite a lot of demand on officers' time at the moment, so I can't give a timescale.
Question 8, Deputy Masson will ask of Her Majesty's Attorney General. Deputy Masson.
Thank you, sir. Will Her Majesty's Attorney General advise to what extent the electoral register is a public document in law, stating in particular the legal position in respect of viewing the register at the library or parish halls, of taking written notes, and of taking either photographs or electronic copies? Thank you, sir.
Attorney General.
So legal rights are given to allow viewing of electoral registers during office hours at the relevant parish hall and at the Jersey Library, and also at the Judicial Greffe. That's done by Article 11 of the Public Elections Law of 2002. And in addition, Article 12 provides that for the purposes of an election, the electoral administrator for the parish shall cause a copy of the register for the district as in force at midday on the day before the first nomination meeting is held. That's to be published in printed form and made available to electoral candidates free of charge. So the Public Elections Law is silent on the question of taking notes, copies or photographs of the register that's made available for inspection under Article 11. Whilst the Public Elections Law doesn't prohibit taking record or copies of the register, but where a person does so, it's likely that the processing of that information would be governed by the Data Protection Law. Finally, sir, the Intellectual Property or Unregistered Rights Jersey Law of 2011 contains restrictions on access to databases. It provides at Article 196 that a person infringes database rights in a database if, without consent of the owner of the right, he or she extracts or reutilizes all or a substantial part of the contents of the database. There is a relaxation in Article 206, but that's subject to two conditions. Firstly, sir, the extraction must be for the purpose which does not involve reutilization of all or a substantial part of the contents of the register. And then the second condition is that it must be with the authority of the appropriate person, which in this case would be the electoral administrator, the parish, the librarian at Jersey Library, or the Judicial Greffier. And where a substantial part of the register is to be reproduced, whether by taking written notes or photographs or electronic copies, those persons would have to decide in each case whether they allow it, depending on the purpose for which the data is sought. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary, Dr. Masson?
So is my understanding correct then? The Jersey electoral register is not really a public document as say it would be in the United Kingdom?
I'm not familiar with the exact status of the document in the equivalent document in the United Kingdom, but it's not a fully accessible public document. So there are absolute rights to view it, but there are limitations on the right to make notes or copies of it in the way that I previously set out.
Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. Just clarifying that position. If a member of the public wants to look at the electoral roll, not for the purpose of election, and is not going to be using it for commercial purposes, but wishes to take some reasonable notes or photographs or whatever, would they be allowed to do so under the law?
Well, as I said, there are provisions in the intellectual property unregistered rights law, which essentially mean that the electoral administrator of the parish or the judicial greffier or the librarian of the Jersey Library can allow that to happen, but there needs to be some check on the purpose of that copying exercise, the extent of it, because there are controls about the substantial copying of all or the substantial part of the relevant database, in this case the electoral register. So there are some controls over the copying of a electoral database.
Supplementary, Deputy Higgins?
No, sir, it's fine. I was talking about ordinary people, not commercial use. Thank you.
Deputy Taddier.
Thank you, sir. In practice, the instruction that's been given out, certainly by the parish halls that I've attended and the library, is that, for example, the library requires people to sign a form saying who they are and that they should not take any photographs of the electoral roll. So could the Attorney General just confirm that that instruction should perhaps change, given the fact that there's nothing inherently unlawful about taking a photographic copy of parts of the document?
Well, as I've said in my previous answers, there are some controls over the right to take copies, and that includes taking photographs. So if the person is taking copies of all of the electoral register, it's permissible to limit doing that in the way that the deputy suggests that the parishes and the library are already doing, because the 2011 law contains restrictions on the copying of all or a substantial parts of a database.
And supplementary, sir, did the Attorney General suggest that it was conditional on the usage, the subsequent usage of that data?
Yes, that is a relevant factor. So it's for decision by the electoral administrator or the librarian or the judicial gref. So if someone, for example, is I don't know, perhaps conducting research, which is not for a commercial purpose, and they're prepared to give, for example, an undertaking as to confidentiality over the use of the or preserving the confidentiality of the details of particular persons on the register, that might be looked at in a wholly different way from someone who is looking to take a copy of the register for commercial purposes. These are individual decisions that will need to be taken by the relevant persons.
Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. I'm just wondering about what constitutes the legitimate purpose for taking copies of the electoral register. What would might the legal interpretation of someone who wanted to try and ensure that the maximum number got on the electoral roll, maximum number of people?
Well, the deputy is asking a very specific question there, and the law it does not spell out a list of purposes. So these are individual decisions that will need to be taken, as I said, by the electoral administrator, the judicial greffier, or by the librarian. It really does, it's an individual decision. It depends on the safeguards that are put in place as to the confidentiality and use of that information. The law does not set out an exhaustive code of all the different purposes that might be expected or that are to be factored into individual decisions.
Deputy Southern, any supplementary?
He thinks perhaps it should.
Right.
It's not a matter for me, sir.
Deputy Masson, final supplementary?
Yes, thank you, sir. And I'm just thinking how to craft this. Given what the Attorney General has said then, those electoral administrators, would they then not be able to prohibit access and use of the electoral register for someone who wanted to say, wanted to encourage people to get onto the electoral register, given that you know, after 3 years people fall off our electoral register over here?
So could the deputy repeat the question?
Yeah, thank you. So, sir, can an electoral administrator prohibit an individual from using the data in the electoral register for purposes of getting people onto the electoral register?
I don't think there would be the starting point would be a blanket prohibition on the use that the deputy has just specified. It's not a commercial use, and it would really depend on the sort of safeguards that that might be offered by that person as to the use and the retention of that sort of information. I think I would need to consider that specific question further in order to be able to give a definitive answer. And I'm happy to meet with the deputy if necessary, if he wishes to pursue that point.
I'm grateful, sir, and we'll follow up. Many thanks for the answers.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Question 9, the Deputy of St John will ask of the Minister for Health and Social Services. Deputy of St John.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise what funding, if any, is available to pay for a private course in family therapy as ordered by the courts, in the event that there is a waiting list to see a family therapist employed by the states of Jersey and the financial circumstances of the family concerned mean that they cannot pay? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Sir, during family proceedings, the court has a wide discretion to order expert assessments to assist the court to determine the outcome of the case. There is, however, a distinction between assessments and treatment. The court cannot order a course of treatment, I understand, and neither can it compel an individual to participate in the treatment if they have capacity and don't wish to do so. But assessments can be ordered, and if treatment was to go ahead, I can tell the deputy there is no additional or separate government funding available to pay for a private course in therapy, which is requested as a result of an assessment. But within the public service, if a child is assessed by a clinician on behalf of the Minister as requiring treatment, the child will receive the appropriate treatment for their needs at no cost to the child or family. And the child will be offered treatment according to urgency of need and does not simply join a waiting list. So for those most in need will receive support before someone else with a perhaps less urgent need, although all need is acknowledged. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary, Deputy. I think your microphone might be off. We can't hear you. We can't hear you, Deputy. We can't hear you. He doesn't seem to be able to hear me at all. Deputy of St John? Well, if we can re-establish contact with him later on, we will arrange for him to be able to ask his supplementary question of the Minister. So we'll move on to question 10, which Deputy Tadyer has for the Minister for Treasury and Resources.
Thank you, sir. Just for the record, so I'm having trouble with my chat function, and I won't necessarily be able to type. So if I can just say I probably will need a supplementary.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Further to written question 246/2020 on the subject of public funding for the George Carteret statue. Will the Minister explain why an incorrect answer was originally given, and will she also state whether it was common at the time for no specific due diligence to be undertaken in relation to such grants?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. It is disappointing to have to deal with this matter as a state's question when I personally rang the Deputy over a week ago to apologise and provide him with the correct information. When the Deputy's original question came in, it was dealt with by an officer who made reasonable inquiries as to whether there had been any grant. The information that officer received suggested there was no grant, and indeed no grant is listed in the annex to the 2014 annual financial report and accounts. Shortly after the answer was submitted, Treasury officers were advised of a draft response to a Freedom of Information request to the parishes. That draft response suggested my written answer was incorrect. I was advised on Tuesday the 30th of June that that might be the case and that further checking would need to be done. Following that further check-in of historical information, I was advised of the correct answer on the morning of Thursday the 2nd of July. As a result, I contacted Deputy Tadyer and the State's Ref to arrange correction. In response to the second part of the Deputy's question, I can't really comment on the...
Minister, you're breaking up.
Oh, I haven't
Minister,
moved.
breaking up. Minister, let me talk about it. Do you want to just go back about 15 seconds and go from then?
Okay, is that any better?
That's better, yes, much better.
I haven't actually moved, so I don't know. I'll try again. That draft response, I think that's where we were, suggested my written answer was incorrect. I was then advised on the 30th of June that might be the case and that further checking would need to be done. And following that further checking of historical information, I was advised of the correct answer on the morning of Thursday, the 2nd of July. As a result, I then contacted Deputy Tadyer and the State's Ref to arrange correction. In response to the second part of the Deputy's question, I can't really comment on the decision taken by the then Minister and the then Treasurer to make a contribution of £15,000 towards the cost of the statue. The Treasurer will have had obligations under the Public Finances Law at the time, and I must assume that officer was satisfied that those obligations had been met. And I can comment even less on the payments from Jersey Airport and the Planning Department. My understanding is that these are not from taxpayer-provided funds, but are payments made by developers relating to planning obligations to fund public art. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary, Dr. Tadyer?
Yeah, thank you, sir. First of all, the Minister doesn't need to be disappointed I've asked this oral question. I would have liked to have dealt with it via a written question, but the deadline had passed because I was only given the information about the incorrect answer after the deadline, sir. So that's the first point, if I can just clarify. Would the Minister clarify, actually, that the money given by Ports of Jersey was in fact airport money and therefore by proxy taxpayers' money, because it was paid for a development ostensibly for a planning application percentage for art by the airport, not by a separate developer, and therefore it would have been money, public money in that regard?
Minister?
No, as I said in my first answer just a few minutes ago, sir, I can't clarify that. This was in 2014. It is not listed as a grant, and if it was paid for by the Ports of Jersey, or the airport as it would have been, then as a percentage for art, that would then come under the then environment and planning obligations, not under Treasury to have any notification of that.
Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. If, as the Minister has mentioned, the grant was not mentioned in the 2014 annual report and accounts, would the Minister please explain why this was the case, and would she also speak as to whether the public can continue to have have faith in the accuracy of the 2014 annual reports and accounts due to this being one inaccuracy? Are there others?
Minister.
Once again, sir, I'm not part of the parish of St Peter in my deputy alignment, nor does the Treasury, we were talking 6 years ago now, know how these matters arose. There possibly were different obligations and diligence due 6 years ago than there are now. I don't think necessarily the circumstance would arise now, but that doesn't mean to say that there was any wrongdoing at the time. So I think the deputies would have to apply to the parish of St Peter for further information, or, as I said earlier, to Environment, who have the planning obligations for things like the erection of a statue.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I understood that this was a grant from the state, not from the parish, and as we have now discovered, there was an inaccuracy in the 2014 annual reports and accounts. Will they be revised as a result? And can the Minister confirm to the island that islanders can have continued confidence in future annual reports and accounts?
Minister.
Well, I hope we will have continued consultation and whatever in future reports and accounts, but that doesn't answer the question of 6 years ago. And when I said it was a grant from the parish, I meant from the airport, which is in the parish. The grant from taxpayers' money, as the deputy quite correctly suggested, was £15,000 of the almost £50,000 total, with the amount that came from taxpayer funded. Another £20,000 was from the airport. Now, whether that was part of, as I said in my opening remarks, development proceeds for art is, I'm afraid I can't answer.
Deputy Southern has a question. Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. Was it not the case that the Constable of St Peter was the Assistant Minister for Treasury at the time of the awarding of this grant?
Minister.
No, sir, that was not the case.
Supplementary.
That's the fact, then that's the fact.
Deputy Higgins.
So, as the Ports of Jersey was not incorporated until 2015, any money that was given by the airport was public money. Will the Treasury Minister look into this, please? Because if on the one hand, the states are giving money to the parish of St Peter for this, and then other states' bodies, which were taxpayer owned at the time and run for the taxpayer, surely this should all be fully accounted and should be totally transparent.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. And I think I've already answered that in as much as I did clearly say that it was the airport and not the Ports of Jersey, because they weren't incorporated as a shareholder arm's length organisation unit at the time. So what the airport wished to do would not necessarily, and I don't think it was, but I can confirm that to the deputy, but I won't categorically say it now, but I don't think it was taxpayers' money.
Supplementary, sir.
Yes.
Can the Minister tell us which government department the airport came under at that time then?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. No, I can't. Is the short answer to that. I will get back to the deputy on it. I will find out and get back to him this afternoon.
And again, if you can ask that department why they gave the grant. Thank you, sir.
Well, you've asked 2 questions. Deputy Tadia, final supplementary.
Yeah, so I just wanted to check with the Treasury Minister. Is she absolutely sure that if it wasn't the former Constable of St Peter who was the Assistant Treasury Minister at the time, who were the Assistant Treasury Ministers at the time this grant was made?
The information that I have was that it was Deputy Eddie Noel who was the Assistant Treasury Minister in 2014.
And that was the time when the grant was made, is that correct?
You've asked a final supplementary question, I think. Deputy Morell, question 11 for the Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. Why are minutes of the Scientific and Technical Advisory Cell or official advice from the Medical Officer of Health not shared with either states members or the public?
Chief Minister.
Yes, thank you, sir. Sir, I do thank the Deputy for his question, because obviously it allows me to clarify the position, but obviously as well it does form part of Deputy Hampton's debate later on, sir, in this sitting, so I'll keep answers short. We're very happy, sir, that the STAC minutes and papers are released, and that was established in its terms of reference that were published on the 3rd of June, which was as an annex to the COVID-19 strategy. So I'm getting an echo. We've welcomed the intent and direction of P88, and we do anticipate that the STAC minutes, supporting papers and advice notes will be published soon. It is just worth making the point, sir, that both the Medical Officer of Health advice has been regularly available to states members and the public. The Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Susan Turnbull, the Deputy Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Alan Musker, and the Medical Director and Chair of STAC, Patrick Armstrong, do participate in states members' briefings and media engagement regularly and are very well received. So there's also been direct access to members of STAC, but so the point going back to the minutes is that they will be published publicly soon, sir.
Supplementary?
Yes, please, sir. I thank the Chief Minister for his answer. Would the Chief Minister confirm whether advice from STAC and from the Medical Officer of Health is provided in an official written format? Because to my knowledge, neither the scrutiny nor the public have received official advice in a written format. Rather, when it has been provided, it's been in a more informal format.
Chief Minister.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In terms of in a particular format, sir, STAC advice is supplied in general, sir, to the Minister for Health. I believe it may have also been at times provided to the Minister for Education. I can certainly say that I've seen at times, so the medical, advice provided to the Minister for Health, and it is in the form of a formal letter, sir.
Deputy Pamplin.
Thank you, sir. 2 seconds. Apologies for all. Let that wake you up. So the Chief Minister recognised the chair of the United Kingdom's equivalent SAGE, where the chair of that, Christopher, excuse me, Vallance, explains that that board has no role in the delivery of the NHS or any services. And obviously the equivalent setup during this pandemic, as we know now as STAC, is very different. Will he be undertaking a review of how the Science Technical Advisory Cell has been put together at the earliest convenience? Thank you.
Chief Minister.
Sir, I think, without going into all the details, so I think the general setup in the UK is different to ours. Don't forget as well, we're dealing with a small, if not perfectly formed community over here, sir, and therefore we have different pressures and different resources. What I will say, sir, is that I remain absolutely satisfied that the STAC, our local STAC in Jersey, have performed exceptionally well, sir, in providing their advice to us. As certainly as Chief Minister, and I know, well, I speak for all the ministers, I know I do speak for the health ministers, we remain absolutely satisfied with the advice we've been receiving, and I can adhere to that advice all the way through. In terms of looking forward, sir, I'm sure we'll be holding some meetings next week, sir, to look at areas identified, lessons we can learn, and planning for towards the end of the year, sir. And therefore, sir, I'm sure we'd be looking at structures. In the longer term, sir, I've got no issues with looking at the structures and seeing what we need to, if there is stuff we need to change. What I would say, sir, is that even though we are at low risk and low numbers, now is not the time to change a structure that's been working very well to date. I'm very happy in the longer term to see if there's any lessons we need to learn and then look at that for the sake of argument at the beginning of next year, sir.
Supplementary, Deputy Pamplin?
Not for now, sir. Thank you.
Final supplementary, Deputy Morell.
Yes, please, sir. Given that that the advice is provided to the Health Minister in a written letter, would the Chief Minister commit to the Assembly to request the Health Minister to provide those letters to scrutiny, sir, so that we may see the official written advice as presented? Thank you, sir.
Chief Minister.
So I'm in the position I'm in is that I've got absolutely no problems with that going to scrutiny, sir. And the reason I just paused is my understanding that at the very least some of that correspondence, so I can't vouch for all of it, has already been provided to scrutiny, is my understanding, sir. I'm very happy to be corrected, and if that isn't the case, we would obviously make sure that's rectified rapidly. But my understanding is that quite a lot of that information has already been shared, sir.
Thank you. The Deputy of St John has rejoined us, and so whilst it's fresh in our minds, we will go back to his supplementary question on question 9 that he was asking the Minister for Health and Social Services with regard to family therapy. Deputy of St John.
Thank you, sir. And just to explain, there was an image of Mike Higgins, Deputy Higgins, as a access hiding my mute button, so I couldn't get back in if I wanted to. I've had to completely go out and come back in. But my question, my supplementary is this, and thank you for inviting me to offer it. Given there are a number of qualified family therapists practicing in the island, why have the courts not agreed terms with those practitioners as they have so done with interpreters, both skills being deemed essential where needed for the best interests of the parties concerned?
Minister.
Sir, the Deputy's question is why have the courts not agreed terms? Is that the case? It's so this is a service that is largely delivered by CYPS, Children, Young People, Education and Skills. As I understand it, if an assessment is made and a clinician agrees to treat, then that service is made available to those people who need it. I'm not aware of any barriers, and I suspect that the Deputy's question arises out of a constituency issue, or perhaps some personal knowledge is obtained. And if he wishes to come and speak to CYPS or to me about any specific concern, we will try and iron things out. But I regret I can't help the Deputy any further on a generalised discussion of the subject.
I have to confirm, sir, it was a constituency issue.
You could take that up with the Minister in the way that he suggested, if you wish.
I most certainly will do that. Thank you, sir.
Question 12, Deputy Alves will ask the Minister for Treasury and Resources. Deputy Alves.
Thank you, sir. Given that Andium Homes rents were frozen in 2018 because of a particularly high inflation rate that year that could have led to a rise in rents that tenants would have found difficult to cope with, will the Minister, as shareholder representative, consider giving approval for a further rent freeze in 2021 to assist tenants post-COVID-19? Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, sir, and thank the Deputy for her question. But the decision to freeze social housing rents does not sit with me, but with the Minister for Children and Housing, as was the case when he took the decision to amend the Fair Rents policy in 2018. Just a bit of explanation. As part of this process, the Minister will consult with myself and with the Minister for Social Security to understand the full impact of any changes to policy. For example, any rent freeze will have a corresponding impact on the annual return to the guarantor and also impacts the future revenue streams of both Andium Homes and the housing trusts who provide Jersey's affordable homes. In particular, Andium Homes will be significantly impacted by any rent freeze. This is currently estimated at £1.6 million of lost revenue for 2021 based on the current RPI forecasts. This amount will, of course, compound into future years. This lost revenue has a major impact on the provision of affordable homes in the future. Whilst I fully appreciate the sentiment of the Deputy's question, I believe there are a number of considerations which need to be taken into account by the Minister for Housing before he would consult with the relevant ministers on any freeze in the current rent policy. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary?
Yes, please, sir. The Minister quoted there, I think it was £1.6 million. Given that a significant amount of that will be covered by the income support component payout, would the Minister be able to give us an idea of what the real cost of a rent rise would be? Thank you. Minister.
Thank you, sir. As I said in my opening remarks, any increase or freeze, as the Deputy asked, would be in consultation with myself and the Minister for Social Security. And the Deputy is quite correct in saying that most of any increase would be covered by income support, hence the demand on income support increasing. And with the current situation of the COVID crisis, then income support is giving up quite a considerable amount of money to help people individually, as well as those on income support. So I can't actually ascertain at this current moment exactly the figure that would be saved on the rental or costing the rental.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister what the nature of that consultation is? Because if the final say is with the Housing Minister, what effect on that final decision does the Treasury Minister and Social Security Minister have? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Well, I think, as the previous questioner said, it has a direct impact on income support, how that's going to be funded. But at the last point, it is the Minister for Housing and Children who makes the final decision to freeze or not, with the impact from the other ministers.
Supplementary, sir?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. And the Minister mentioned the repayment to the, sorry, I've forgotten the word she used, sir. It was, I think it's to do with the Andium Homes loan. Can I ask the Minister, is that direct? Is she saying that that repayment is directly linked to levels of rent that's charged by Andium Home?
I think, sir, the Deputy is referring to what I mentioned as an estimated 1.6 million of lost revenue for 2021 if there was a rent freeze. And this is based on current RPI forecasts, which is what the rental increases are based upon. And that is on the basis of 2.7% from March 2020, which is within the range set by the Minister for Housing.
So I was referring to the repayment that the Minister mentioned, and I just, forgive me, I just cannot remember the word she used, to to a group that she mentioned. I understand about the income being different, but it seemed to be that one of the things that influenced the decision was the repayment. And is that the repayment to the loan taken out by Andium Rents and therefore directly linked to the rental level?
So I'm not quite sure what repayments the Deputy is referring to. I did say there'd be a major impact on the revenue, but I'm not quite sure what the Deputy is referring to when he says repayment. It would, the monies I mentioned would be lost revenue if there was a rent freeze.
Right, I think we need to leave that there. Deputy Alves, do you have a final supplementary for the Minister?
Thank you, sir. So can the Minister confirm then that the Housing Minister would still have to have authorisation from Treasury in order to freeze rents to reduce the return?
Minister.
I think, Deputy, it's done in conjunction with Treasury and Social Security because it impacts across the board. But it is the final decision of the Housing Minister in conjunction with, of course, Andium. Thank you, sir.
Sir, I did have a question in chat, sir.
I didn't see anything in the chat, and I've even got the Greffier's laptop as well. I've now got 3 screens and I can't see your question in any of them.
I haven't pressed the button, probably.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I will permit you to ask a question because obviously you want to. Deputy Southern, please ask your question.
Oh, most kind of you, sir. Most kind. Most hospitable. Yes. Whilst the Treasury Minister says that it's a shared decision between him and the Minister of Housing, between her and the Minister of Housing, does she not accept that as the shareholder representative, she effectively has a veto over rents?
No, sir. I said in my opening remarks that it is a decision, and in answering this question, we have been consulting with the Minister for Housing, so he's fully aware of what the answer was going to be. And it is his decision to freeze rents, but it is in consultation with Treasury and with Social Security because of the across the board effects it has.
And would it be part, if I may, sir?
Yes.
And would it be part of her remit to balance out the missing income going to the bond with the given a freeze in rents, the reduced amount spent on income support? Would there not be a balance there to make a judgment on whether or not a rent freeze was A, doable, and B, suitable?
I think also, as I've mentioned before, sir, that the a rent freeze would have to be in balance with building new houses. So there's a huge demand for new social housing, and if Andium don't get the income, or if their income is reduced, it will have a knock-on effect on that. So everything has to be balanced. There's not a black and white answer to any of these questions.
Question 13, the Deputy of St John will ask of the Minister for Health and Social Services. Deputy of St John.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister commit to reopening the stroke rehabilitation unit at Samaray Ward at Overdale as soon as possible within the safe exit framework? And what timescale, if any, can he provide at this time for this reopening? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
So the temporary closure of Samaray Ward took place at a time when all hospital services were being prepared for an anticipated increase in acute admissions related to COVID-19. Community services partners were able to support the discharge of patients that were medically fit from both the General Hospital and Samaray Ward to accommodate this position of preparedness. This brought the hospital into a position of having low levels of patient occupancy, which has remained the case throughout the COVID-19 period. I must emphasize the closure of Samaray Ward is not permanent and is in line with other adjustments we have needed to make. As has been seen in many other places, emergency activity here has sharply reduced, and in essence this activity has not yet recovered to patient levels previously experienced. We've therefore established temporary inpatient rehabilitation services at the General Hospital. At the moment, we anticipate up to 6 beds would meet the current demand, but we're able to increase this if required. In essence, I'm saying we do not yet have enough patients requiring inpatient rehabilitation to require the 27 beds at Samaray Ward to be reopened at the present time, because current demand is low. we recognise that in addition to the emergency activity around rehabilitation, the current position is also impacted because of reduced surgical activity, such as orthopaedics, where post-surgical rehabilitation may be required. So that comes back, and we are increasing elective surgery, and we're monitoring the situation continuously, and we will adjust capacity as required as we reopen the hospital and move through the safe exit strategy. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary?
Yes, sir. Can the Minister reassure this Assembly that this closure is not part of an experiment to justify the implementation of the Jersey Care model, the beginning of a death by 1,000 small cuts without prior consultation? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Yes, sir, I wish to give that assurance. We would not close a facility without full consultation. This has been a temporary adjustment in the same way we have adjusted so many other services within the hospital, and there are no plans to make this a permanent closure, which is not to say that there will never be any changes in HCS, because the department and services are constantly changing, but it is all done with consultation and not in the context of a COVID emergency. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. Since the Minister mentioned the Safe Exit Framework, does he accept that a further 4 cases of live cases of COVID-19 have arrived on the island via the Safe Travel Network?
Minister?
So the 4 cases announced today are not, 2 of them are as a result of passengers coming through the ports, 2 are as a result of local testing, I believe. It's a question unrelated to Samurai Ward.
Minister, we're losing you. We got as far as, Minister, we lost part of your sentence there. You got as far as "I believe," and then we lost you.
I'm sorry, sir. Yes, I was saying 2 as a result of passenger entry, 2 as a result of local testing. And beyond that, I don't know if that's simply an observation of the Deputy or whether he has a question around Samurai Ward, which is the subject of the question.
It is. Deputy Southern?
Well, sir, I mean, since the Minister himself mentioned the Safe Exit Framework, I thought it would be legitimate to talk about the fresh arrival of more COVID-19 carriers.
The questions about reopening the stroke unit at Samurai Ward.
In that case, I withdraw mine, sir.
Right. Final supplementary, Deputy of St John.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Is it not a fact that health will endeavour to focus on rehabilitation in the community rather than in hospital buildings, where there are static staff who are able to respond immediately to the challenges that newly disabled individuals can?
Minister.
Sir, it's about providing the right provision for the patient. So many of the patients that were discharged from Samurai Ward at the outset of the COVID emergency were discharged home and received the support of community physiotherapists, occupational therapists, social workers, and many other staff. And very often, recovery rates can be improved by placing somebody in their home environment where appropriate, because that is the position, that is the situation where they will live their lives. So they will make whatever readjustments are needed in their own environment. And where that's appropriate, I would support that. Where more intensive rehabilitation is needed, that will be delivered in a ward environment. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Question 14, Deputy Morell will ask of the Minister for Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture. Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. What does the Minister assess as being the main business sectors adversely affected by the COVID-19 crisis? What are the key aims he has identified as being the reasons to provide help to these sectors, whether by fiscal stimulus or other means?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. All sectors of our economy have been disrupted by COVID-19 to either a greater or lesser extent. We have seen a very resilient financial and professional services sector through the early adoption and readiness for home working, and our valued agricultural sector has been able to continue largely unabated, sir, but not without challenges. I assess the most affected sectors based on impact and length of disruption would be, sir, hotels, hospitality sector, visitor attractions, wholesale and retail businesses, health, beauty and fitness. So that's perhaps not a completely full list, but those, in answer to the Deputy's question, is what are assessed to have been the worst affected, largely through, sir, the restriction of trade. Some other sectors, such as construction, saw an immediate impact, but then following that progressive release back to business through the construction permit scheme. Our key aims throughout the pandemic were to protect jobs and support business sectors and their employees, sir, where we had forced a cessation of restriction of trade upon them through the public health protection strategy, sir, and guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Thank you, sir. This question was written before we had knowledge of the fiscal stimulus package that was announced last week, but I would like to ask the Minister how he sees the fiscal stimulus as announced will meet those aims that he has just stated.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I think if we look at the second phase of fiscal stimulus announced last Friday, sir, that will provide, I think, welcome support to a number of sectors across the economy, in addition to the support that members will already know about. And that, of course, is the payroll scheme, the bank loan guarantee scheme, the deferral of GST, and social security, sir, and other fiscal support. The various aspects of the scheme, the £100 voucher smart card scheme is untested, sir. This is new. It's an innovative idea to try to help our economy serve, and it's a way of putting money directly into the tills of businesses through islanders, through the consumer. And I'm particularly pleased that that scheme will support technology, sir, using a smart card. And that could be a pilot for something in the future, because from the digital technology available from the use of a smart card, we will be able to have information provided on how and where the money is spent. And I think that could be a significant benefit as we plan further fiscal support moving forward, sir. I am part of a team of ministers that work on this, sir, and the ministerial team are continuing to monitor the position and stand ready to receive officer advice and stand ready to continue to evolve the packages of support that are in place.
Question 15. Thank you. Deputy Ward will ask of the Chief Minister. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, it took me unawares there because I thought my question was later. Can I ask the Minister, sir, what indicators, if any, is the government using in its consideration of whether a return to stricter social distancing measures should be introduced? Thank you, sir.
Chief Minister.
Yes, thank you, sir. This actually would have been better as a written question because it's quite a long list. But anyway, I'll go quickly, sir. There's what's called an analytical cell, which is a subgroup of STAC, and that analyses any new positive case on a daily basis, and it also analyses active cases as a whole to identify the risk
Can I stop
levels.
you? You're a bit muffled, Chief Minister. You sound a bit muffled from here.
Try again, so that better?
A bit better, yeah.
Hang on, sir. I can try something else.
Is that better, sir?
It sounds like you're in a science fiction program. Very echoey. The second U was probably better than the first or the third.
Perhaps a written question would have been a good idea, sir.
Right, shall we go for this? I've just moved the speaker slightly closer to me. Right. So sorry, yes, where we were. So that was about the the subgroup of STAC. So qualitative information is particularly important for epidemiological analysis, as it provides insights into the circumstances and nature of the infection and the necessary response to contain the infection. However, yes, there is quantitative indicators are also part of that process, and this gives an indication of the information and metrics which are also monitored daily. So number of active cases and number of direct contacts of active cases, and those are what's taken into account. So there is test history of any, test results for outstanding tests, personal work circumstances, status of self-isolation, and number of clusters or potential clusters. Number of new positive cases over time, and that's split down by various breakdowns, including the methods of identification and symptomatic or asymptomatic, number of notifiable disease notifications by healthcare professionals, border metrics, which is risk level for all countries worldwide, number of passengers reach risk level arriving, and number of positive tests from border testing. Then also, trend data against these categories is monitored weekly. And so, for example, when monitoring for any increase in cases, the term looks out for weeks 0 to 2, any increase in symptoms or calls to the help desk, weeks 2 to 4, an increase in hospital admissions, or weeks 4 to 6, an increase in ICU admissions. System capacity is also monitored, including public health campaign effectiveness, wellbeing support and readiness levels, and a whole load of other stuff. So I'm acutely aware of length on here, sir. PPE capacity, hospital bed, ICU capacity, etc., etc. Medical advice to ministers on whether to introduce any stricter public health measures when social distancing or another measure or set of measures will be based on an assessment of all the factors I've just listed, sir, and probably some others as well.
Thank you, sir. Supplementary?
Yes.
Given the complexity and the number of variables involved in this decision, can the Chief Minister say that he is confident that he could act swiftly and within what timescale if, and we all hope it is not the case, that the distancing measures have to be reintroduced? Thank you, sir.
Chief Minister.
Yes, sir, I can confirm that.
And the timescale, sir, would it be within 24 hours, within a day, 2 days, 3 days? Thank you, sir.
Chief Minister.
Sir, very much depends on the advice we receive from STAC. So to give the example, sir, when myself and the Health Minister were approached on a Friday night about with the revised modelling that had been taking place in terms of the initial profiling back in March, I think we were approached at something like 5 o'clock in the evening, and the decision had been made by something like 9 or 10 o'clock that night, sir. So if we need to move fast, we will move faster.
Deputy Doublé.
Thank you, sir. Can the Chief Minister confirm that if stricter measures are needed in the future, that we won't again make the mistake of including children in any legislation that's enacted for that situation?
Chief Minister.
Sir, I can't give that confirmation because it will very much depend on the medical advice that we receive. And if the medical advice we receive does suggest that certain measures are required, then obviously we'll be taking those measures. Obviously, if it's legislation, sir, it always comes back to the Assembly, but it is very, very much dependent on what the medical advice is that we receive.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Yes.
So the Chief Minister will be aware, as we all are, that the medical advice is that children do not spread the virus anywhere near the same extent as adults do, and that the disproportionate effect on children's mental health of physical distancing means that the medical advice was to not have physical distancing for children. If that advice remains the same, will the Chief Minister commit to keeping children out of any legislation?
So I make the point that a lot of that, I believe, is related to schools, whereas I think the legislation that the Deputy is referring to was around gathering of groups, and it does depend on the age ranges in terms of groups that we were dealing with. But I just reiterate the point, sir, it's very much based on the advice we receive at the time from STAC. Therefore, if the advice is that it's not necessary, then of course we won't do it. If the advice is that on the balance of risk and taking all those ones that the Deputy's referred to into account, because I have an awful lot of sympathy with what she said, then obviously we would have to. So if it's legislation changes, it'll be in the hands of the Assembly. And obviously, if that was the case, and as we have been doing all the way through, we would make sure that members were fully briefed before the debate, sir.
Deputy Pamplin.
Thank you, sir. If the measures of social distancing, physical distancing have to change, and we see outbreaks that are happening around the world, a large part of that is being concluded as the robust nature of the testing, track and trace and the contact tracing. What reassurances can the Chief Minister provide us with the continuation and the strength behind the contact assisting team in terms of numbers and its growth over the next months ahead? Thank you.
Chief Minister.
So I can give absolute assurance that in terms of the testing and tracing regime that we have, it is absolutely very strong, sir, and as far as I'm concerned, and I think as all ministers are also concerned, it has to remain that way for the foreseeable future. I believe, sir, we've got a very strong system, even in comparison to many other developed countries around the world, and we should take comfort in that, sir.
Thank you. The final supplementary, Deputy Ward.
Yes, thank you, sir. Sorry, I lost my mute button there. Given, sir, that the emergency legislation that we passed in general gives the government the powers to close or impose more restrictions on borders without Assembly approval, should there be, and I reiterate, we all hope this will not happen, a need, will the Chief Minister commit to making that decision regarding the borders just as swiftly as any other decision regards distancing within the island? Thank you, sir.
Chief Minister.
So in essence, I think I've already done that, sir. In other words, if we receive advice that requires us to act quickly and is within our powers, we will do so, sir. I really just make the point. Obviously, as I think as with many jurisdictions, we've all learnt a lot since this all started for us, particularly in March. We are in a far different place in terms of levels of preparedness. I think actually demonstrates the strength of the teams we've had, and that's whether it's for PPE, whether it's for the Nightingale, all the other measures and the testing and tracing regime, which obviously members were briefed on last week. So I just reiterate in answering Deputy Ward's question, yes, always based on the advice to receive, we can act quickly, but equally, sir, I do remain confident we have a very good system, very strong system of testing and tracing, and we will continue to invest in it, sir. So as the technology changes, as we can make these decisions, we can make the system even smoother, sir. Thank you.
Question 16, Deputy Higgins will put to the Minister for Home Affairs. Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister explain to the Assembly what changes to the powers and operation of the Jersey Police Complaints Authority, if any, are being prepared by his department, and what the purpose is of such changes?
Minister? We can't hear you, Minister. We can't hear you. I think you're on mute still.
Yes, I was. My apologies. As I was saying quietly to myself, over the past 12 months, we've been reviewing our police complaints legislation to ensure that it's up to date in accordance with best practice. The updated legislation is expected to provide significant new powers to the authority to match the position of similar bodies elsewhere in the British Isles. For example, it will have fuller oversight of all stages of the complaints process. It will make formal recommendations to the Deputy Chief Officer or the Attorney General regarding police complaints and contact matters, require the disclosure of information to assist with complaints and contact matters, and make more information available to complainants, and ensure that the authority can commission its own legal and investigative expertise where necessary. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary, sir.
Yes, you're a bit echoey, Deputy Higgins, so go slowly so we can hear you properly.
Okay. Is the Minister planning a public consultation on his changes to get the views of the people who have had experience of the Police Complaints Authority?
So we've already been out to consultation with the authority itself, the police authority, the police, the judiciary, the committee de Connétable, the committee des chefs de police, and the law officers department. Our scrutiny panel, of which Deputy Higgins is a member, has had the draft legislation for nearly a month now. I'm hoping that the law and the regulations made under it will be lodged later this month, and that will mean it will not be debated till September or October, which will give plenty of time for the public or anyone who is interested to make comments on the draft legislation, sir. So the answer, probably in simple terms, is yes, sir.
Deputy Labby.
Thank you. Is it the case currently that if one has a complaint against the police, one has to lodge that complaint with the police?
Minister?
Yes, sir, that is a normal procedure. Then it is dealt with by the Professional Standards Department, and the Police Complaints Authority become involved subsequent to that, sir.
Does the Minister not regard that situation as anomalous and not in line with best practice, that you lodge the complaint you have against someone with, or an organisation with that organisation? And does his new legislation cover that and find an alternative route directly to the authority?
Yes, there can be an alternative route if it is appropriate. There can be an alternative route now, in particularly serious cases or where there are accusations of corruption and so on. We always bring in outside investigators to deal with it. But the new legislation will be best practice, and throughout the United Kingdom, other than Northern Ireland, all complaints are firstly passed to the Professional Standards Department within the force involved, sir.
Deputy Pamplin.
Yeah, thank you, sir. It's just to pick up on the Minister's response to the previous question. Can I just be clear that there's been no public consultation with maybe members of the public who've been through this process with either good or bad or whatever? Have I got that right? Is that clear? Thank you, sir.
No, there's been no, as far as I'm aware, sir, and I cannot recall there being any public consultation as yet. But of course, the moment it is lodged, that consultation is then in place, sir.
Supplementary, sir?
Yes.
Does the Minister agree with me that surely part of any process should be including the people who may have had experience, whether good or bad, to interject as doing this? Will he be openly encouraging members of the public, which I'm pretty sure he will be, that they really have their voices heard in this important issue? Thank you, sir.
Yes, of course, sir. Anyone who's had experience of the Complaints Authority or has not, but simply has views on it, we would welcome and encourage their participation in the process before the law and regulations are debated, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Higgins, final supplementary?
Yes, sir. In fact, I've got two, but it's under the system. I can't put them both, although I might try. Well, would it not be better, Minister, to go out to consultation with your proposals so the public can comment on it before bringing the regulations to the states? So therefore, they could be modified before that. And also, can you elaborate on how many external investigations have been carried out? Because I'm not aware of any.
Minister.
Yeah, how many? I can't say. I am personally aware of at least two, and I'm quite happy, as I said before, for members of the public, whether they have a personal interest in this matter or not, to make contributions, and they will be able to do that when they see the legislation and when the legislation is lodged, sir.
Question 7, thank you. Question 17, the Connétable of St Martin will ask the Minister for Health and Social Services. Connétable of St Martin.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister outline what involvement it is planned the States Assembly will have in deciding upon any restructuring or reprioritisation of the public health services in the island, including any proposed move from public to private sector provision in response to any cost-saving reductions to services arising from the government's recovery plan?
Minister.
Sir, this is a very general question, and I can say that HCS has no recovery plans to outsource public health services to the private sector in order to make cost savings. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary.
Thank you, sir. There has been a lot of restructuring going along on, and a lot of prioritisation in the public health. For example, and sorry to mention this again, the fully equipped fit for purpose infertility unit on Roselle Ward, which is now closed and which is moving to Samray Ward in 1 week. And Samray Ward is a successful stroke rehabilitation unit, which is fit for purpose. And now we understand that that's now being moved to the hospital temporarily, which will be moving another unit out. And I also understand that the executive has deemed that we don't need a dedicated gynae ward, and the men are being treated alongside women on Rayner Ward. And so my question is, would the Minister agree that it is in the benefit for all of us that the States Assembly are at least informed upon any restructuring or reprioritisation of public health services in the island? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Sir, the Deputy has referred, so the Constable has referred to a number of things. She mentioned Samray. I've answered to Deputy Poynton, and I hope I've made clear that the provision around Samray was a temporary measure as a result of COVID, like so many other measures within the hospital. I've committed that the assisted reproduction unit, which the Constable has asked about, is a service that is continuing to offer everything that it always has. Provision around gynecology, I can't imagine that a general hospital can do without gynecology, though I've got no specific instructions. Of course, if the Constable wishes to come and talk to me about any concerns she's heard or put a specific question, we will answer that. And finally, Rayner Ward, again, I'm not aware of any changes. In this recent months, there have been some very difficult changes to make. We've had to ask staff to work in very many different ways to address an emergency situation that the island was facing. If the Deputy's concerns arise out of that, I can confirm that we'll be returning to business as usual, let's say. But if she has specific concerns, I'm sorry if I've kept on referring to the Constable as a deputy, I don't mean to. But specific questions, I'm always very willing to answer, and I can go and ask when I don't know the answer to specific provisions. Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, sir, could I just clarify something? I didn't say that the gynecology services was closing down. I just said that it has always had a dedicated ward, and that men were now being treated on this ward alongside women. And I believe this isn't just a temporary measure. So it was just to clarify. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Question 18, Deputy Southern will ask of the Chief Minister. Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. Given the budgetary pressures arising from the COVID-19 pandemic, what specific consideration, if any, has the Chief Minister given to adopting or supporting measures to reduce income inequality in the island? And if none, when will he do so in order to deliver on the aims of the Common Strategic Policy?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir.
We got echo and all sorts happening there.
Yes. Can we all mute? Right. Okay. So I absolutely remain fully committed to the aims of the CSP, and particularly the objective that does state we will reduce income inequality and improve the standard of living. And as we're aware, sir, the COVID-19 pandemic has put a whole host of households under significant financial pressure. And to address a number of the issues that have arisen there, sir, we have, for example, protected jobs and wages through the co-funded payroll scheme. We've helped households to get money quickly through a new faster track income support. We've helped redundant people less than 5 years residents with a temporary support scheme, and we have supported tenants by introducing a rent freeze and preventing evictions for COVID-19 related rent arrears. On Friday, as the Deputy will be aware, we announced the package of measures that will put money into people's pockets to help the economy to recover, reduce unemployment and help self-employed people. And in particular, so as we know, there'll be £100 for every adult and child living in Jersey, and a further £100 for people receiving a means tested benefit. I hope that gives an indication of the measures we have put in place, sir, and I hope that helps to answer the Deputy's question. Thank you.
Supplementary.
Thank you, sir. Yes. Did the Chief Minister not consider that £2 a week or £4 a week in somebody's pocket regular throughout the year and building on year is a far better way to deliver a benefit to the poorest rather than a £200 or £100 one-off payment?
Chief Minister.
Sir, I do make the point that the £100 voucher was not just around, was more around economic stimulus than helping people at the lower end, or just helping people at the lower end of our income measures, sir. And what I do make the point, sir, is that for people who are on what we've defined as means tested benefits, but that also includes lower earning pensioners as well, sir, it will be £200 they'll receive, and not just £100. I think I also make the point that obviously the usual income support measures have remained in place all the way through. So people are being supported, sir, particularly throughout this crisis. The £100 was very much a simple method to get some money into people's pockets to help stimulate the economy. It was a temporary measure because it's time limited for no more than 2 months. It is hopefully timely, so on the basis we're getting it out in something like 7 weeks, i.e. early September, and it is obviously targeted at all unders, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. So I'm terrible trouble with the mute button today. Can I ask the Minister, given he's just made a commitment to the CSP commitments, can he reassure Norfolk St Helier residents of his continued commitment to a Norfolk St Helier youth centre and not any delay to what is such a severely needed project? Thank you, sir.
So I rather think we're stretching the relevance of the question from an income inequality measure, sir, to a capital project for some specific islanders in St Helier, sir. But obviously I'll leave that with your judgment. And sir, no, I can't give that commitment, sir. What I've said is that everything remains on the table and nothing is offered at this stage. And by that, sir, I mean that if we had to reprofile capital projects according to priorities and according to cash flow challenges we will be facing, which obviously, sir, once things are buttoned down, we will obviously be briefing states members on. If there was had to be a reprioritisation, which we have not yet done, I hasten to add, then obviously that as a capital project would be one of those things that would have to be in the mix. So I can say, sir, on both sides, A, I can't give a guarantee, but equally, sir, I can confirm that's not in our deliberations as yet, sir. So I'm just being my normal cautious self. I don't guarantee anything at this stage, but it is not presently in our discussion, sir.
Supplementary?
Yes, sir. Given that 462 new flats have been agreed in St Helier District 2, in some of them in the preceding week, is it not the case that any delay could lose sites and could miss out on an opportunity of desperately needed investment and very well spent investment in our community, which will lead to improvement in standards of living, which was what the answer was to the original question and why this question is relevant, sir? Thank you.
Chief Minister.
So, as I said, the decisions that I'm sure will be facing ministers, or rephrase it, ministers are having to face, is and when we look at the capital programme, is whether, for example, particular projects need to be deferred, which will have a cash flow implication, but does not necessarily mean the project is cancelled. It might just be delayed for a year. But the whole point on this, is that we will be going through that as a process. It has to form part of the government plan. If there's any change, absolutely, the Deputy will be made fully aware of it at the earliest possible point. But as I keep saying, the reason I can't guarantee it, sir, is because, as we keep saying, nothing is off the table at this stage. But equally, sir, it has not been one of our considerations to date, sir.
Deputy Tadier, there's 1 minute left in this section.
I don't need to ask my question now, thank you.
Deputy Sutherland, final supplementary.
If I may, sir, yes, briefly. Does the Minister not consider that his actions so far have been about mitigation rather than reduction of income inequality? And what further measures does he have under consideration to be active in this front?
Chief Minister.
Sir, I'm not too sure if I agree with only just being about mitigation. The package that we announced on Friday, sir, for islanders, I mean, obviously it's a household, sir, but each earning 32,000, I think it was, a year, would put about £1,350 back into their pockets. I think that's per household, sir, but that's not an inconsiderable sum of money, and therefore I would have thought would address some of the issues that the Deputy is referring to, sir.
Thank you. We now come to questions to ministers without notice, and the first period is for the Minister for Infrastructure, and the first question is from the Connétable of St Helier. Connétable.
Thank you, sir. 2 weeks ago, the Minister promised to look into the possibility of bringing back the number 19 bus into the town centre after the closure of Broad Street. Could he advise the Assembly how much progress he's made in the last fortnight on this project? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Minister.
Yes, sir. We have approached Liberty Bus with this, and they were looking into it. There are various problems regarding timings for that, but the discussions are ongoing, sir.
A supplementary, please, sir.
Yes.
This is very much the answer that the Minister has made before. Could he give us a timetable for when these discussions will be concluded? Previously I've asked for a trial. I don't know why it's taking 2 weeks to agree for a trial rerouting of the number 19. Could he give us a definite date when this may be starting?
Minister.
No, sir. As I say, we are progressing this with Liberty Bus. They have said it will add a lot of time to the various routes going around. We have suggested various options, and they're looking into that, sir. But I will, of course, be opening Broad Street to the general public as soon as I get the all clear from the health authorities, sir.
Deputy Ayer.
Thank you, sir. My constable has asked my question, so we can move on. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Pamplin.
Phew. And hello, thank you, sir. Can the Minister update the Assembly and the island on the tender process for the work to transfer Orchard House across to Plymouth Canal and the place of safety, which we're also waiting to hear about? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Not at present, sir, but I expect to have that paperwork in the not too distant future, sir.
Again, supplementary quickly, same in the vein of the Constable St Helier. Can you put a date on that? Because obviously, after today's announcement with the hospital, we're heading to a very busy period. So is that a couple of days? Can I push the Minister, or would it be within a certain time period? Thank you.
Minister.
As soon as possible, sir. As soon as it comes on my desk, I will sign it and get it away, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, as you are asked to deliver your share of savings, what areas are most under threat, and what are your red lines? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Very good question, sir. There are red lines, and there are problems which we have to overcome, but it's something I'm working through with my department where we can make savings without jeopardising, first of all, any jobs with our employees, and secondly, keep maintaining the service to the public, sir.
Supplementary.
Yes, sir. So, can the Minister confirm any of the red lines he has, any areas that are most under threat? Can he give us any information at all about what future issues we may face as an island with the delivery of infrastructure? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
I can tell off the top of my head, sir, that there may be 1 or 2 road resurfacings that will be pushed forward until next year. There are ongoing projects like the sewage treatment plant that will carry on. That's going to be completed in the not too distant future, but there may be 1 or 2 projects that will be moved forward until next year, sir.
Deputy Alves.
Thank you, sir. How soon, if at all, will the Minister be releasing properties from the property holdings portfolio for housing? Thank you.
Minister.
For housing sites, I presume the deputy is referring to.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, as soon as possible, sir. I do more than I can to assist the housing programme, sir. We don't actually hold huge swathes of land, contrary to public opinion. We do hold some older properties that we'd be more than happy to pass on, sir.
Supplementary, Deputy Alves?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Truscott?
Thank you, sir. Sir, the stretch of road along La Route de Genet from Red Houses to Table Chapel is well overdue for resurfacing. Currently, it resembles a patchwork quilt. Could the Minister confirm that this stretch of road is earmarked for resurfacing? And if it is, could the Minister confirm when the work is likely to commence? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Yes, indeed, sir. I believe that's on the. I will need to get back to the deputy on that, sir, but I have seen it on the list.
Thank you, sir. I look forward to the information.
Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. Follow the adoption P64 on 18th of June regarding banning single-use bags. Can Minister advise what progress has been made to develop this proposition and who is responsible on this work?
Minister.
Yes, that's with officers at the moment, sir. Some of my officers have been working very closely with Deputy Gardner on this from the outset to assist with her proposition, which I'm delighted to say was passed. But this is work in progress, sir.
Supplementary, Deputy Gardner?
Yes, please. Can Minister advise who is the lead officer on this work stream, please?
The same, well, I won't mention any names. It was the recycling manager who assisted the deputy in preparing her proposition. The lady will be moving to the UK in a not too distant future, but at the moment it's the same officer.
Thank you. Deputy St Martin.
Thank you, sir. When the Minister came into office over 2 years ago now, there was a plan in place to put a new crossing in at the bottom of Gloucester Street to aid pedestrians and cyclists. With the lockdown, the number of people cycling and walking has increased greatly. Where is the Minister with this plan? It's vital that we do this work for the safety of these pedestrians and cyclists.
Minister.
Indeed, sir. It's, again, work in progress, but because of COVID, we've actually shut down Gloucester Street to allow parking for health staff, as the deputy may be aware. But we are restarting that as soon as possible now with cycling routes. I want to do more cycle lanes and cycling lanes within the town of St Helier to assist people to get it from A to B. And we have quite a few plans in the pipeline at the moment regarding crossings and zebra crossings. They are very expensive, so we have to watch the pennies, but it's an as and when available. We have one, I believe the press release has just gone out for St John's Road, which will be installed in the not too distant future, sir.
Supplementary, sir, if I may.
Yes.
Has the Minister met with the Constable of St Helier since our last state's meeting? And I asked the same question.
I think we met once or twice, sir. Yes, indeed.
Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. Given that the price of copper is $6,000 a tonne or more, would the Minister please advise the Assembly as to whether the State of Jersey receives any revenue from recycled copper and whether there has been any growth in the amount of copper being recycled in the island?
Minister.
The Deputy's got me on that one, sir. I need to research that and get back to the Deputy. We do have a very good scrap service over here where things are recycled and reprocessed, anything from copper cables onwards, sir. But I will need to get back to the Deputy on that.
Thank you, sir, and I appreciate. I called the Minister on the spot there, sir. No problem.
Thank you. Connétable St Helier.
Thank you, sir. The Minister has in his portfolio.
Oops, I've lost the constable, sir.
We can't hear you, Connétable.
The constable is frozen.
Connétable? Connétable, we'll come back to you. Connétable St Brelard.
Thank you, sir. I noted the answer the Minister gave to Deputy Truscott regarding roads in the parish. Could I ask the Minister if he would please get abreast of his brief and understand that Route de Genève in St Brelard particularly is in a dire state, and my understanding is it is not due in the programme to be resurfaced until 2021, and that really is not good enough. Much comment has been made about cyclists riding on pavements, and I suggest to the Minister that it's the road is so rough that cyclists have to ride on the pavements for any degree of comfort. Would he confirm that he will get a grip of the resurfacing programme and let members know exactly when that's going to take place and whether he'll be bringing it forward? Thank you, sir.
Minister?
As I've just pointed out, sir, there will be a few roads that will be pushed forward to next year because of the funding issues that we now face. I will ask officers to go out and re-inspect Rue de Genève as soon as possible, but I know they do that on a regular basis anyway. But it's not just the surface of the roads that are a problem. We bring over sophisticated equipment with ground penetrating radar that looks at the substructure of the major roads that are used and the damage that's caused there. But I will indeed ask my team to go out and inspect Rue de Genève as soon as possible, sir.
Supplementary, sir, if I may, would
Yes.
the Minister agree to join me on a bicycle on Route de Genève in the near future so that he can experience it for himself? Thank you, sir.
Minister?
Why not, sir? Yes, we can ride tandem.
Thank you, sir.
Nice. Thank you. A Deputy of St John. We'll come back to Deputy of St John. I'll try the Connétable St Helier again. No, I won't. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. That worked out quite well for me. I asked the Minister, what action is being taken over the green carpet of seaweed covering St Albans Bay and getting worse by the day? Thank you.
Minister.
A perennial problem, sir. Yes, it is being cleaned on a regular basis, so I'm not sure what the status is now. We've been quite lucky of late, but now it's warming up again. The sea temperature is increasing. We are we do have a lot of problems in as much as the runoff from the island comes from north to south down the island, so any nutrients come out into the bay in St Aubin, which is a very shallow bay. It does warm up, so it's actually the perfect greenhouse for the green algae. The sewage treatment works does pump out there, which is obviously treated, but there are nutrients involved. There's runoff from the land where there's nitrates, which is again nutrients to the algae, but the team are doing their best to clear it wherever they can. It's not always easy because we can only clear off, obviously, sand. We use the special rake system, which works on the intertidal range so that it doesn't lift sand off the beach. Just where the water meets the beach, that's where we scoop it up from, if we can, before it sort of settles and takes root. But it is an ongoing problem, sir.
Supplementary quickly, sir. Can
Yes.
the Minister assure that the rotting seaweed and subsequent emissions produced are no risk to public health, both human and other species?
No, it's not a risk to health, sir. It is unpleasant underfoot and it's unpleasant to smell. But it's such sort of low levels, it is not a risk to health. You need sort of 4 or 5 feet deep to start to be a risk to health. But it is unpleasant and we would like to get rid of it if we can. As I say, it's all to do with nutrients going into the bay. We've got the farmers are putting less and less nitrates on the land because of the cost. That helps. We've had a spill recently from one particular farm, which didn't help. But as I say, we have a new sewage plant coming online in a not too distant future. So this will all help with nutrients in the bay.
Thank you. Deputy St John.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister engage in a full consultation with Zion residents and St John Village residents who are concerned about the volumes and perceived speed of traffic flowing through both areas? A cause of considerable anxiety about the safety of pedestrians and cyclists.
Minister?
Has the Deputy finished, sir? He's frozen again.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think that's the end of the question, yes.
Fine, okay. There is a problem, as the Deputy is aware. A local supermarket is moving and there's lots of redevelopment going on in that respect. I actually have 2 senior officers who are actually working on this very project as we speak. It does border 3 parishes, of course. It is St John, Trinity and St Helier. So my officers are liaising with the 3 parishes and indeed some of the residents there that have complained about the roads, etc.
Thank you. That completes the 15 minutes of questions to this Minister. I wonder, Minister, when you're next on the screen, could you possibly mute your notifications first, because we heard them in the background during the course of your answers.
Indeed, sir.
There was something in the chat. There was, and it's not just you. I think other members too possibly may need to mute their notifications. The next 15 minutes are for questions for the Minister for External Relations, and the first question is from Deputy Morell.
With the greatest respect, so I believe Deputy Pamplin got in before me, sir.
Well, he did. That was the first one I could see on this minuscule screen that I'm now using in front of me. But all right, Deputy Pamplin.
We're all friends after all. Thank you, sir. Bear with us. I spoke too soon. Can the Minister update the Assembly on any work he and his department are doing regarding the situation in the St Malo port? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
So hopefully the announcement or the comment that the Minister for Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture made on Friday, there is no further update other than to say that there have been ongoing conversations with French counterparts during the course of the weekend, and there is due to be a meeting on Wednesday. There'll be further updates after that meeting.
Supplementary. Deputy Pamplin, supplementary? No. Deputy
Yes.
Ayer. Deputy Ayer.
Thank you, sir. Jersey has joined the UK in imposing sanctions by way of freezing assets in Jersey of those linked to gross human rights violations. Will the Minister advise whether this includes China?
Minister.
Well, of course, this is around individuals and companies, not countries per se. So in that regard, it wouldn't include a country per se.
Supplementary, Deputy Ive?
Thank you, sir. With the clampdown on citizens of Hong Kong and penalties up to life in prison for anyone protesting against the communist regime, does the Minister regard these actions as human rights violations, and will individuals in China have their assets freed accordingly?
Well, of course, Jersey follows either UN, EU, or now UK sanctions, because we, of course, don't have the ability here on Ireland to undertake the necessary work that those organisations do. So should individuals or companies appear on those lists, then we will implement them in Jersey. The issue, of course, in Hong Kong is slightly more complex, and it's a matter that the United Kingdom, as the Deputy will be aware, is taking up with China in regard to their perception that the pre-handover agreement is not being met.
Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister please advise the Assembly as to what conversations or negotiations he is having with the UK following the UK's announcement of its immigration policies following Brexit, to ensure that Jersey is able to attract the skilled workers that it needs, which of course may not be the same skilled workers as the UK needs?
Minister.
Yes, of course, officials continue to have very close working cooperation with their counterparts in the United Kingdom. It's fair to say, of course, that immigration and immigration policy is a controversial issue here in Jersey, just as it is in the United Kingdom. We've been very clear that we believe here there is a need in a community like Jersey's to have a certain level of immigration, which we have managed in a way different from the UK. So we've had our own domestic pieces of legislation overlaying the UK immigration provisions. And just as the Minister for Home Affairs has made exemptions in the past in regard to people wishing to come to Jersey, which are outside of the UK's immigration regime, I see no reason why we will not continue to do so.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Yes.
Is the Minister able to assure the Assembly that Jersey's interests will be maintained and that we will be able to attract those skilled workers that we need? For instance, we learned today that the UK will not be providing fast-track visas for care workers. Jersey often needs care workers, and in this instance, would we be able to get them as quickly as we need?
Well, we have, there are certain sectors in our economy where the market remains tight and it is difficult to attract them. But there are many factors around why an individual would wish to come to Jersey and why we would wish to seek to continue to attract them. I believe that we currently have measures in place that will allow them to be attracted to Jersey. If you take particularly the care worker issue, of course, that is more around salary that they can avail themselves of whilst they're here in Jersey, and also the cost of housing.
Thank you. Deputy Wicken, you were in the chat for the question.
Yes, Deputy Pamplin got in there early and asked the same question I was going to ask. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the External Relations Minister for the government whether he could give his government's view on behalf of the government of the human rights record of the United Arab Emirates? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
So we've had these conversations and questions in the States before. My position and the position of the government, as articulated previously is that we support the view of the United Kingdom government that it's appropriate to raise matters of concern in a careful and appropriate way, but to continue trading and conversation with partners like the United Arab Emirates, and today we have done that as well. The relationship between Jersey and the United Arab Emirates goes back to 2001.
Thank you, sir. The question was about the government's opinion on human rights record, but I don't think we'll necessarily get that. Can I ask that what reassurances will there be for investment there that workers will have any form of rights, which we would expect for our working population as a base level, given that there are many immigrant workers in the UAE who do not have basic rights as they work?
Minister.
Well, of course, any Jersey citizen going to live anywhere around the world would expect to abide by the local regulations in that country, and that would be part of their consideration before they move to that place. And they will be different from the ones that we have in Jersey, just in the same way that an islander moving to live in the UK would have different rights and protections. Same with one moving to France as well. So that's part of the consideration that islanders would make.
Sorry, it was about the investments that may be made, ensuring that the companies of those investments have workers that have some form of rights, so that investments have some quality assurance behind them. It wasn't about residents of Jersey moving to work in the UAE.
Yes, that's correct. Very different question, Minister. Do you want the Deputy to ask the question again?
No, sir, sorry, I misunderstood his question. So Jersey firms, for example, financial services firms, would offer terms and conditions that they thought were appropriate to their employees in country. And we know that large firms, multinational firms and banks offer global terms and conditions. They don't simply limit those terms and conditions from the in-country terms and conditions. The UAE is a very welcoming home to investment and to companies setting up to trade into the region and into the Far East as well. When it comes to other issues, for example, as we were talking about today, for the export of foodstuffs, of course, they remain an open and welcoming market for those exports as well.
Deputy Tadia.
Thank you, sir. In a response to Deputy Iyer, the Minister confirmed that sanctions wouldn't be applied on a country basis, but on an individual personal basis. Can he confirm whether that's likely to include any Saudi princes or any UEA nobility, for example?
I said individuals and corporations as well, not on a countrywide basis. Of course, we, as I said, will impose those asset freezing sanctions as they are brought forward by the United Kingdom, and we'll also impose sanctions which are brought forward by the UN and the EU. And we are not involved in the deliberation at the level that the Deputy is asking me about. So if they are brought forward, they will be imposed.
So can I ask a supplementary? Yes. In terms of human rights, the Minister has said that they tend to raise these issues at a diplomatic level between politicians and ministers, for example. Could the Minister give an example of a time where he has raised a human rights issue with the likes of Saudi Arabia or United Arab Emirates or the Chinese government, for example?
Minister?
So the Deputy well knows I've answered those questions in the past, and it would be no point me answering that question directly because that would go against the process that we have as a government that we raise those matters confidentially in private.
Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. Follow the photo publication from Future Finance Conference. It's been published last week. Concerns were raised around Jersey commitment to diversity. Yet again, we had only male representation at the webinar with United Arab Emirates. I would like to ask Minister, how many women were offered to participate and declined for both of these events?
Minister.
Thank you. Well, just to correct the question, there was one female participant this morning at the UAE webinar. That is not as much as obviously we would like to be working towards, particularly when we bear in mind that the External Relations Ministry within the government of Jersey is very well balanced when it comes to diversity of all sorts, and probably has the greatest number of females within the ministry, likewise with Jersey Finance as well, and Digital Jersey. Of course, the issue when it comes to the Prospect seminar that took place right on the cusp of both the United Kingdom and Jersey going into lockdown, it isn't acceptable. We were hosted by Prospect, and there were due to be several female participants who were unable to attend, some of them right at the very last minute that we didn't know about until we sat down, because they were UK parliamentarians, and just like states members sometimes pull out of meetings right at the last minute because other emergency issues arrive, so it was in that regard as well. But we are committed to doing better, and that starts right at the grassroots level, and the Deputy is aware of some of the measures that my colleagues in government are taking in that regard.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. I don't believe the Minister should get away with his answer to Deputy Tadier's question. Can he tell states members of any country where he has raised, and I don't want to know what he raised, but in terms of detail, where he has actually raised a human rights issue?
Minister.
Well, the Deputy knows, because I've answered this question previously in the Assembly, that when we are on inbound visits, then we will always liaise and have conversations with the British ambassador or High Commissioner in country. And those conversations are wide-ranging. I've also been in meetings where British ambassadors, and the conversation has turned to human rights issues most directly. And that's as far as I am prepared to answer that question, sir.
Supplementary, sir, that's not good enough. He's mentioned that he mentions it to ambassadors, British ambassadors, who then perhaps raise them along with British concerns. I asked the question, has the Minister ever raised a human rights question with any country that he's gone to deal with? And if so, which?
So I've answered that question as far as I'm prepared to answer it this afternoon.
We'll just have to take it he hasn't. Thank you, sir.
Very final question for this Minister, Deputy Doublé.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister, following the previous questions, would the Minister agree to raise the issue of freedom of religion or belief with the leadership from the Emirates, as conversion to any religion or non-religious belief other than Islam is punishable by death? And would he also raise the issue around the systematic persecution of LGBT people, as well as prosecution of women who report instances of rape?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Well, of course, the Deputy, I'm sure, is aware that the UAE is a tolerant society. They have a Minister for Tolerance. I have met with government representatives and ministers in the UAE, where they have welcomed, in this particular case, members of the visiting Christian community. And of course, the other issues that the Deputy raises, she is well aware of what Jersey's view is in regard to those matters, and well aware of what the United Kingdom's view is in regard to those matters. And these are matters that are raised in the way that we've just discussed.
Supplementary, please, sir. I may have misheard the Minister.
I'm sorry, Deputy, we've run out of time. But you can always ask a further question to the Minister. I can put your name down if you want to now for that purpose when we come to questions for all ministers. But we have run out of time for the purpose of this question period. Thank you, Minister. So the next matter on the order paper is questions without notice for all ministers, for which we have an hour. Members already began to indicate in the chat channel the minutes to which they ask questions. If a member does not identify a minister, then the question will be put to the Chief Minister, who may delegate it to another minister if appropriate. So the first question is Deputy Higgins for the Minister for Home Affairs. Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I would like your ruling on his answer to my written question today, 274-220, where he hasn't actually answered the questions that were set. Following on from that, I would like the Minister to answer part of that question and say the states have on numerous occasions over the last 28 years put forward money which goes through the Home Affairs Department to give the Sea Cadets a headquarters. They still haven't got a headquarters, and the Minister says in his answer he hasn't got any funds for it. What is the Minister going to do to try and assist the Sea Cadets and get money for them to deal with this scandal?
Minister.
Yes, sir. As I said,
first part of your question, Deputy Higgins, I will give a written consideration to it and provide a written response within the timeline set out in standing orders.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I think. Sorry. As the Deputy knows, property matters are in the hands of Jersey Property Holdings. As I said in the written answer, my department is in consultation with that organisation, and certainly we're looking in the short term to find at least temporary accommodation for this great organisation, sir.
Supplementary, sir.
Yes.
The Sea Cadets have been promised temporary accommodation, new accommodation for 28 years. They would rather not leave Fort Regent. They're happy with the site they've got, and they don't think it would be part of any restructuring of Fort Regent. What will the Minister do to try and assist the Sea Cadet Squadron?
Well, certainly, I've been given an indication that the Sea Cadets would wish to stay at Fort Regent. If that is their wish, they would find no objection from me or the Home Affairs Department, and they would need to do their negotiations with the department responsible for property, which is Jersey Property Holdings, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the Connétable of St Helier for the Deputy Chief Minister. Connétable of St Helier.
Thank you, sir. Would the Deputy Chief Minister express his view that, as I indicated to him, there are now numerous islanders who are upset and concerned at the prospect of People's Park and First Tower Park being included on a shortlist for the sites of the new hospital? And would he indicate when he intends to remove sites which will not be practicable, as he indicated in this morning's briefing? Will that be before September when we consider a shortlist, or will these concerned residents have to wait until the autumn?
Deputy Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. The process now is that our building and design partners will begin technical assessments of the 5 shortlisted sites. They will include transport studies, including capacity and safety, visual impact studies, infrastructure, water, sewage, electricity, and so on, ecological studies, planning and further clinical considerations, and of course costings, sir. I believe, sir, that some of those sites, 2 or 3 of those sites, might come off the list very quickly. The shortlist, to get to the shortlist of 5, we gave the process clean sheet of paper, sir, so it could make a fresh start. But it is clear, I think, that one or possibly two of those sites have got impediments to going further, and I've asked officers, or the political oversight group have asked officers to make sure that work is done as quickly as possible so that sites can be removed as soon as possible if they're not going to make the final cut, to avoid worry and uncertainty for residents there and those concerned about them. So I would suggest, sir, I've set a target that I would hope by the end of August we will have removed at least one or two of the sites, sir, perhaps even sooner.
Supplementary?
Yeah, so the Deputy Chief Minister got there in the end, but he hasn't really answered my question. Why, if it's intended to remove particularly contentious sites, did he not do that before announcing the 5 sites this morning? Could he not have spared islanders a great deal of concern and upset by doing that piece of work first?
Well, sir, the Constable alludes to a process that involves political interference. That's what went wrong last time, and that's what we were determined not to do. We were certainly not going to get involved and tell the citizens panel and the panel of officers that came up with it shortlist what they could and couldn't do based on the opinions of some politicians and some islanders, sir. And that's why it's been all about the process. The process has been independent, and the political oversight group, sir, agreed unanimously to keep all 5 options on the table. It is now in the political arena, sir, and ultimately will be a political decision by the states, sir. And we've asked officers, sir, to work as quickly as they can. So any sites, any impediments, or anything to stop sites progressing further, which will only become apparent once more in-depth technical studies, technical assessments have taken place, sir. As soon as they become apparent, we will be in a position to start reducing that 5 to 1 or possibly 2 for state's decision, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy St Martin has a question for the Chief Minister. Deputy St Martin.
Thank you, sir. Could I ask the Chief Minister, are visitors from France who will be on day trips going to be subject to the same testing procedure as everybody else?
Chief Minister.
Sorry about that. Sir, at this stage, my understanding is yes, we're not making any exceptions. However, sir, we are looking at how we deal, for example, a visit not necessarily from France, but from London, which flies in one point and flies out perhaps again very, very rapidly. I think guidance is being strengthened in that area. I do make the point, sir, that in whatever happens, it will continue to be a rigorous system of testing, and we're making sure that isolation and and distancing, etc., remains enforced and appropriate according to the risks of each trip, sir.
A supplementary, sir.
Yes.
Could I ask the Chief Minister, for French visitors or English visitors who arrive on a day trip and go back where they've come from, will they be informed like everybody else if they test positive?
Chief Minister.
Sorry, sir, could the Deputy just repeat the very last part of this question, sir?
Will visitors who return to their where they've left, be it France or the UK, when they return after their day trip, will they be informed if they test positive?
So the short answer is absolutely yes, sir. I will say, sir, I think at this stage we're not actively encouraging day trips, but I'll just make the point, yes, they would be informed of their results, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Truscott has a question for the Chief Minister. Deputy Truscott.
Thank you, sir. Sir, currently the UK government have made the wearing of face masks mandatory on public transport and are seriously considering doing the same for indoor public spaces such as shops. So will the Chief Minister consider legislating to make the wearing of face masks mandatory in enclosed spaces such as shops and on public transport? And if not, why not?
Chief Minister.
Sir, actually, that is probably more usefully directed to the Minister for Health, who also has responsibilities for STAC and the advice that they receive, if that's appropriate, sir.
Yes.
And he is poised to answer the question, so I can tell.
Minister for Health.
Thank you, sir. It remains the case that our public health advice is that cloth masks are strongly recommended, particularly in enclosed public spaces such as shops. We know that in some situations cloth masks can add to the protection we gain from good hygiene and physical distances, so they maximize the benefits that a more consistent use could bring. And particularly in the light of the study from Oxford University and the news over the weekend, I have asked STAC to provide advice on whether the wearing of cloth masks should be compulsory in certain situations or settings, and how that might work in practice. And I await that advice, sir. Thank you.
Yes, I'll go for a supplemental. Thank you, sir. Sir, in my opinion, people like and respect clear instructions. I think the problem with our government's communication on wearing masks is that some people will heed the advice while others will ignore it. And so, again, in my opinion, their actions, those who choose not to wear a mask, dilute the effectiveness of the measure. Could the Health Minister indicate what set of circumstances would change his mind on this issue? Thank you, sir.
Minister. Health Minister.
Yeah, I'm sorry, sir. I think I inadvertently muted that. So I said I'm keeping an open mind, and I think the question is whether the cloth masks should remain as strong advice or should be made compulsory in certain circumstances or in a wide variety of circumstances. That is the advice we need from STAC. Obviously, much of the conversation is around retail outlets, because there is a less, unlike a planned venue and meeting where there can be planning around how people move around a building. In a retail space, you can't plan how people move around a building. So therefore, it's often said that the use of masks in that sort of scenario has a greater benefit. But all this will be considered by STAC, and their advice will be passed to me and to ministers, and we will come forward with their advice and any measures that we may consider appropriate to protect the island. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Iyer, you have a question for the same Minister, the Health Minister.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise the Assembly whether all passengers arriving and leaving Jersey have a temperature check?
Minister.
No, sir, they do not. That has not been part of the policy. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary?
Yes, please, sir. Would the Minister ensure that the simple but effective measure is implemented? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
So we have always acted on the advice coming forward from our Medical Officer of Health and STAC. Their advice thus far has been that temperature testing is not terribly effective because people have varying temperatures. It picks up different illnesses which may have nothing to do with COVID, and moreover, people can mask a high temperature by certain methods. But I am confident, sir, that if STAC considered that was an appropriate measure, they would say so. They would tell us, and ministers could then review our existing arrangements. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Dubler, you have a question for a minister?
I think Deputy Pamplin is ahead of me, sir, and Deputy Morell.
Well, I had your question written down because I think you were left over from the last session. If that's right, then I would ask your question now.
I'll be asking a question of a different minister, if that's okay.
Thank you. Deputy Morell. Oh, so Deputy, we'll stay with you. I've plenty of time for everyone. Deputy Doublé, your question.
I'm happy either way, sir. But, thank you. My question is for the Health Minister, and I would like to ask the Minister whether he would seek the medical advice specifically on what the impact of the crisis has been on very young children and babies, and particularly on those babies that were born in the midst of the crisis, please.
Thank you, Minister.
Yes, sir. The government will be conducting a review of all the COVID measures in time on a whole population basis. So that will include consideration of the effects on children, young people, and babies. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary, please, sir. Could I ask that the Minister ask specifically for advice on this age group, given the Assembly's commitment to the 1001 Days initiative, and the fact that 1 or 2 months or 3 months is a very long time, and we could end up missing out on chances to aid these children's development. And I'm particularly thinking of the conversations that are being had in the UK at the moment about the lack of socialisation on babies from around 0 to age 1, and something I'm of the opinion that something needs to be looked into sooner rather than later. So could the Minister do this, could prioritise this age group, please, so that if any measures are needed, they can be put in place as soon as possible?
Minister.
Yes, sir. I undertake to discuss that with the Medical Officer of Health and ask whether any special measures need to be taken or advice given. And I'm happy to discuss the issue at greater length with the Deputy.
Thank you. Deputy Morell has a question for the Chief Minister. Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. And before I ask my question, I was just wondering if I might genuinely politely ask for clarification of the answer the Chief Minister gave to Deputy St Martin, just because I do seem to remember in a briefing being told that they wouldn't test day trippers. No need for an answer now.
No, you must ask. You have your question in a supplementary. And
okay, my question, sir, is with the publication of the appraisal of the Chief Executive expected this month, would the Chief Minister advise the Assembly as to whether any consideration or indeed any agreement, formal or informal, has been given to the Chief Executive with regard to extending the contract, the employment contract?
Chief Minister.
Very easy answer, sir. No, sir.
Thank you, sir. And a supplementary, sir, would be if contract extension was to be considered, would the Chief Minister bring this before the States Assembly? Thank you, sir.
Chief Minister.
So I'd have to go back and check the scenario, what the appointment process was, sir, because usually that would be done through the States Employment Board, and usually matters of personnel appointment don't now come to the Assembly. So this is a memory test, sir. So whatever the process was followed previously, if there was an extension to contract, that would be what we'd have to follow, sir. At the very least, I'm sure there would be an announcement, and obviously we would undertake to keep scrutiny and members informed if that was to be the case, sir.
Thank you.
Deputy Pamplin has a question for the Chief Minister. Deputy Pamplin.
Thank you, sir. Can we just a question for you, sir? Just to clarify, are we continuing on this hour of questioning this evening before we conclude? Is that the plan?
Yes, in the sense that the Assembly agreed the agenda for today, and that included completing questions. Of course, it's always open for a member to propose the adjournment, but I'm proceeding on the footing that we will complete the questions today, which will conclude if all questions are asked, taking up the whole hour at about 6:13 or 6:14.
Right, thank you for that clarification, sir. My question, I think, is for the Chief Minister, but it may be over to the Home Affairs Minister. I'll let the Chief Minister decide. After last night's outage affected many islanders, it was reported that the calling of 999 numbers from landlines was not able to be achieved. This throws up a little bit of concern. Will the Chief Minister be urgently talking to everyone concerned to how a quick recovery can be put in place, and if this was to happen again? Thank you. Chief Minister.
Sir, I can give the update I received basically just before we started this afternoon. Sir, because I raised the same concerns. My understanding, sir, is that even though the landlines went down, if anybody had dialed on their mobile 999, they could have actually accessed the services through essentially roaming or picking up another network, sir, and that would have directly connected them. They would have had to just check a setting on their phone, sir, to make sure they were picking up the strongest signal, I think, sir, locally. But my understanding, sir, is that provided that was followed, and in future, if that was the case, then 999 calls would have been accessible, sir. But I am still seeking, we are just waiting, sir, for further clarification of how those events took place. I know the JT are taking it obviously very, very seriously. I think it's the worst outage they've had in 25 years, sir, and the reliability of the system that we've had to date has been very good, sir.
Supplementary, please, sir. I appreciate the Chief Minister's response to that, but I'm sure he shares also the same concerns of me. If a senior citizen who does have access to a mobile phone but needed to reach for the nearest landline phone developed for them to access the emergency services was not achievable, this is a concerning factor. And again, would he reiterate to all those concerned that an emergency system can kick in place, whatever that could be, if possible? Thank you, sir. Chief Minister.
So I do share the same concerns. I would. So the other question that came in the discussion, sir, was that the nature of the problem would also have impacted our previous copper system as well as the present fibre system, because it was an inherent issue to do with basic linking up calls, sir. We'll get some more information as that comes through, sir, and I'm sure members, if they would wish, can avail themselves of a full briefing if we need it, once the full information has been obtainable. But the point that the Deputy makes is a concern, sir, and we'll certainly feed back and see if there's anything else that can be done to deal with the scenario that the Deputy has referred to, sir. It is appears to be a very unusual set of events that took place, and one would not... Actually, I'm not going to tempt fate, sir. It is the worst outage that we've had in something like 25 years, sir. And I know the JT teams have been working every hour since it happened to rectify matters, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Ward has a question for the Minister for the Environment. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Given increased evidence of air pollution increasing infection rates and the severity of COVID-19, how will these air pollution levels be monitored in our urban areas, in particularly in the centre of St Helier, and in particularly as traffic grows again after lockdown? Thank you.
So the last part of your question became, sorry, we lost you after halfway through the end of the question. Can you repeat the last part of your question?
Yes, sir. It was, how will this be monitored, particularly as traffic grows again after lockdown is eased? Have you got that, sir?
Yes, sir.
No, I'm sorry. The sound becomes distorted towards the end.
Okay, I will turn off my camera to see if that helps the situation. Is that better?
Well, you can have a go, yes.
Okay, so how will air pollution levels be monitored in the centre of St Helier, particularly as lockdown eases and traffic grows again in the centre of our capital? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We got that. Minister for the Environment.
Thank you, sir. I think it's again a very good question from Deputy Ward, and we are seeing, of course, the levels of traffic increasing very quickly, really, and we're, of course, with the air pollution levels, particularly in confined sites. Unfortunately, the Deputy will know, of course, there is an air quality monitoring project underway,
It's a low budget project that relies very much on internal resources in the environmental health team. I checked about a quarter of an hour ago, and I'm sorry to say that we are still now down to such a very basic level of staff there. And with Digital Jersey also, the main people involved in the project also being concentrating on COVID, we've not been able to move that. But I think, sir, I think we may well have to bring in external resource to do this now, because I've been given the same answer to the deputy for certainly during the COVID outbreak, and it gives me no comfort, sir.
Supplementary, sir?
Yes.
So perhaps the fact that there is increasing evidence that this could have an effect much wider, and indeed the World Health Organization suggests there are premature deaths of around 7 million per year because of air pollution around the world, that this really should be a priority, particularly as we go through and learn more about this pandemic and the effect it has on people of all ages. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Minister.
Yes, I think my response is I absolutely agree with the Deputy, and I've already spoken to the Medical Officer of Health and Advisor Chief Officer, is that I think that what the pandemic shows us, that we need to invest greater resources and priority to these kind of issues, where, if you like, we're dealing with emerging science and there are risks. What we've known for some time, of course, is that the air pollution risks is particularly damaging to young people's, the children's lungs and so on. And I think, you know, those effects could be a lot wider. And so I think we need to, I think it illustrates for me how we need to recognise that we need to really resource environmental work. And so that is something which I will continue to drive for. And biggest, most importantly in Jersey, I believe we need an air quality law, because I get many complaints about dust and pollutants in the air and so on, and I think our tolerance level are starting to run out of it. So I give a commitment, I'll be working on that.
Thank you. Deputy Gardner has a question for the Health Minister. Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. Follow Minister's answer to my written question 277 regarding the waiting lists for surgical operation stated that routine procedures were postponed due to COVID-19 rather than cancelled. Would the Minister advise if all the postponed routine operations now have a future appointment, a date, to have the procedure that has been postponed?
Minister.
So no, I can't confirm in exactly those terms. We can't go from the position where we were, seriously shut down, apart from an emergency service, to being fully back to normal. But the process is significantly underway, and we have begun elective surgery, and step by step parts of the hospital will be opening. Patients will receive letters advising them when to come in, and we ask them to respond and not be fearful about coming into their hospital appointments. I hope that helps the Deputy, sir.
Supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, sir. Would Minister agree that it would be very helpful for people to have a certainty, even if it would be in another 3-4 months or 6 months that they will have a surgery? At least they would know when it will take place. And how long Minister think would take to have a date for postponed operation surgeries?
Minister?
Yes, sir, but we must also carefully plan and not rush into things until we are certain. Our hospital procedures still have to take account of COVID, additional cleaning, additional infection control, additional distancing required. So we're not yet in a position where we can give a firm date for the resumption of some services or when operations will be precisely carried out. But I'm very conscious that people wish to have that reassurance, wish to have certainty, and I know the hard work that is going into preparing to restore our work, and I'll make every effort I can to make sure that we can give as much certainty as possible to patients. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The Connétable of St Brelard has a question for the Minister for Home Affairs. Connétable of St Brelard.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister advise members whether he has the resource to support the Honorary Police in St Brelard, particularly in the light of alcohol-fueled incidents at Portlet Common over the weekend, where bottles were witnessed being thrown at private property? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Sir, I can tell the constable that I have no knowledge of the particular incident he speaks about. But if he's talking about resource from the States Jersey Police, the States Jersey Police have a commitment to serving the community, and I'm sure that they would do everything they can to ensure that the Honorary Police in St Brelard are supported as best as possible, sir.
Supplementary, please, sir. Will he be reviewing, as a consequence, the licensing law, and particularly with regard to easy access to alcohol in off-licences and supermarkets? Thank you, sir.
So the licensing law does not fall under my remit, although I have been invited to be a member of a working party, which includes the Minister for Health, Deputy Lash, the Assistant Treasury Minister, Senator Pallett. I'm not sure, I've got to remember somebody else. We did have an initial meeting earlier this year, and I'm looking forward to being called to a further one so that we can develop this matter further, sir.
I thank the Minister, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Southern, you have a question for a Minister.
For the Health Minister, sir. And it reads as follows. Now that we now have 9 active cases of COVID-19, 4 of which were arrivals that were tested on screening. Does he still believe that our safe exit and travel policy is sound?
Thank you. Did you hear that, Chief? Did you hear that,
yes,
Minister?
I did, sir. And this is a question for the Health Minister, is that right, sir?
That's right, yes.
Yeah, sorry, sir, I can answer that. So we brought in that policy on the basis of advice from STAC. That advice remains unchanged. Since the 3rd of July, 2,887 passengers have arrived in Jersey and have been tested. And of those, 4 have been tested positive for COVID-19. All were asymptomatic, and all are in quarantine self-isolation, sir. So I believe our policy is effective and is allowing the island to open up in a measured way and assisting us to return to a normal environment, sir. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary, sir. Thank you. Is the Minister aware of what turnaround time applied to these 9 tests?
Yes, sir. I'm advised that today's latest average turnaround time between the passenger arriving and receiving their test results is 32 hours. Thank you.
That means that some were more than 24 hours, sir.
Well, that's a comment, I think. Deputy Alves, you have a question for the Chair of the States Employment Board. Deputy Alves.
Thank you, sir. If it is considered safe for people to travel in and out of the island without isolating while they wait for their test results, why are the SEB enforcing staff to stay away from the workplace while waiting for the same results? Does the Chair not have confidence in the medical advice that does not require people to self-isolate? Thank you, sir.
Chief Minister.
So I think the main principle in that advice is that generally people can, many people can work from home, and therefore it's a precautionary basis, sir.
Sorry, You've frozen, Chief Minister. We got as far as many people can work from home.
I think that was his answer, sir.
That was the end of the answer, sir.
Oh, that was the answer, was it? Ah.
Yes, sir.
Well, forgive me. Deputy Elves.
That's fine then, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Tadia, you have a question for the Chief Minister, I think.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I'm happy if he wants to delegate it to someone else. It is to do with state's employees, and I've been informed by a concerned member of the public who says that because of the amount of overtime having to be worked in the public sector, and overtime isn't necessarily being paid, rather time off in lieu will be offered. Could the Minister confirm that and also advise whether he thinks that the staff will have time to take their holiday in fact?
Chief Minister.
Sir, I'm very happy if the Deputy wants to send me details, but my overall understanding is that nothing has changed in the policy, sir, so therefore the standard rules are applying, sir.
So could the Chief Minister confirm what the standard rules are, but also that the sheer volume of overtime that is being done because of the pandemic, and of course we all salute the fact that staff are going the extra mile. Can the Chief Minister guarantee that they won't be effectively penalised by doing work that they won't get paid for or won't get time off for either?
Chief Minister.
Sir, what I'll do, I will double check the position, sir, but my understanding says that the normal rules are applying, and that, in other words, that where overtime, flex time and time off in lieu is all coming through, it's the normal policies that are being applied even now, sir.
Deputy Higgins, you have a question for the Minister for Home Affairs. Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. It relates to written question 273-220 today, Part D. It says the State of Jersey Police undertake a monthly crime audit and quality assurance process, which would include cases of harassment. Would the Home Affairs Minister elaborate on this statement, as I'm aware of 3 cases of harassment notices being issued, which were not satisfactory with regard to what they were given for, and also notices that were not upgraded to restraining orders or telecoms or computer offences with repeated abuse?
So I would find it very difficult to answer that question, as obviously all harassment notices and actions under this particular law are very much operational matters, and I do not have at my disposal the numbers that the deputy would wish me to answer, sir.
Supplementary, sir. Will the Minister then tell us what right
Yes.
of appeal that a person who's been issued with a harassment notice order has? So in other words, if he's been issued by a harassment order by the harassment notice by the police, what right of appeal he has against that notice?
Yeah, I don't believe there's any right. My understanding is, I believe there'd be no right of appeal because it is simply advising the person involved that there has been a complaint made against them. There's no legal basis for the notice and no action that will be taken until there is some evidence of harassment actually having taken place, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Gardner, you have a question for the Health Minister. Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. Would Minister advise if there are any doctors back at the Labar Centre to do routine breast screening? And if not, why not? And when this much needed service will be reopened?
Sorry. I think we missed the last part of your question after why not. Do you want to repeat it, Deputy Gardner?
Yeah, sure. Why not? And if not, why not? And when this much needed service will be reopened?
Sir, I'm afraid thank you, sir. I'm afraid I don't have the specifics with me. but I undertake to find out that information and get back to the deputy.
Supplementary, sir?
Yes.
I would like to inform Minister that I have been contacted by a parishioner who had a day to routine screening 4 months ago, and now she's on waiting list. And would the Minister at the same time check that the appointments, from my perspective, have been cancelled and not postponed, and she could get back to have her date for the screening? She and other, obviously, patients, I think.
Yes, I'll do all I can to check if the deputy can contact me with the constituent's permission, if I can have her name and perhaps the hospital reference number, we can identify when she might be asked back. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The Deputy of St Martin has a question for the Deputy Chief Minister. Deputy of St Martin.
Thank you, sir. So the co-funding payroll scheme has been a great success. It's helped businesses to stay afloat, and it's kept them going. I'm aware, sir, that if the co-funding payroll scheme, however, comes to an abrupt halt, that businesses that are still to see their business to return and their turnover return will be again faced with some real serious issues about continuing. Can the Minister give the Assembly assurances that the co-funding payroll scheme will at the least be slowed down gradually and won't suffer a cliff edge just stopping at the end of a particular month? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Minister.
The Deputy will know, sir, because I alluded to it in an earlier answer to a question that a team of ministers, including the Treasury Minister, Social Security Minister, External Relations Minister, and myself, sir, are constantly working with officials, sir, who are constantly reviewing the scheme. We've already, all of us have given an undertaking, sir, that we won't allow businesses to face a cliff edge finish to the support, sir. And it has, as I understand, it has been agreed in principle that we would phase it out, sir. And we hope to be in a position to be presenting that at some stage to businesses at some stage in the very near future, sir. It's very important that businesses are given the help they need to see them through the pandemic. It would be simply wrong to allow this support to stop now after protecting so many jobs right through the pandemic, to withdraw it, sir, and perhaps cause redundancies at this stage, sir. We're also going to be looking to sector specific support, sir, for those sectors that have been particularly hard hit, sir, that is likely to run through the winter and into next year. And finally, sir, just very quickly, as part of the measures announced on Friday, sir, by the Treasury Minister, are running into next year. So much of that support, sir, will be valid throughout 2021. Thank you.
Supplementary?
No, I'm grateful to the Minister for his answer, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Morell has a question for the Minister for the Environment. Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. I was wondering if the Minister for the Environment could confirm whether or not the Norfolk Police investigation into historic planning application historic planning application complaint is still ongoing, and if so, if you could explain why it is taking so long to complete and when it is expected to be completed.
You wish to answer that, sir?
I'm not sure that the Minister can answer a question about the current police
investigation. No, I was about to say that. I think it's a question. I think it's the Home Affairs Minister to deal with it, because I don't have the answer, and I have not. Wouldn't be proper for me to do anything. Everything I know is just rumour. I'm sure the Home Affairs Minister knows the facts.
In which case, sir, may I direct the same question to the Home Affairs Minister, please?
Well, if it's a proper question, if it's in relation to a pending police investigation,
well, it's just to ask
tread very carefully.
We were advised in 2018 that the police investigation was ongoing. I'm wondering if it is still ongoing, when it may finish. Thank you.
So could the deputy remind me which police investigation he's talking about, sir?
The Norfolk Police investigation. Norfolk Police were asked to come in to investigate the planning department for historic discrepancies, I assume. And that was in 2018. And we've heard nothing since. That was public knowledge and it was in the newspaper. Is the police investigation still ongoing? If so, when do you expect it to finish?
I can confirm that the Norfolk Police are conducting an inquiry on behalf of the Jersey Police. I have been briefed from time to time on this particular case, and we are, well, I have to say we are awaiting developments, and it depends on what the result of their inquiries are as to when the situation might finish.
Sir, supplementary.
Thank you.
Do you have an estimate of the cost of the investigation to date, sir?
No, I don't. Not off the top of my head, but it's certainly within reasonable bounds. But the real trick, of course, is that justice must be served, and the costs are certainly within bounds that I would feel acceptable, sir.
Thank you.
Deputy Truscott, you have a question for the Minister of the Environment?
No, thank you, sir. My question has been asked, so withdraw. Thank you.
Deputy Doublé, you have a question for the Health Minister.
Thank you, sir. May I actually ask the Chief Minister a question, which is following on from something a previous questioner asked, and I believe that the Chief Minister may have inadvertently given some incorrect information about policies for states employees. I believe on the 21st of April, employees were sent information about flexi-time and overtime, and they were told that flexi-time was suspended from Friday the 1st of May, and that overtime was only going to be available when arranged in advance. Can the Chief Minister agree to review this situation, please, to ensure the well-being and fair treatment of our state's employees?
Chief Minister.
Sir, I will look into the matter that the deputies raised. My understanding was that there weren't any changes in what we normally do. However, sir, irrespective of that, I have asked for it to be taken up to the States Employment Board for one of its next regular meetings, sir.
Supplementary, please, sir. So the email that I have in front of me, which was, I think, sent to all states employees, was this not sent with the Chief Minister's approval? Did he not see this before it was sent on the 21st of April?
Chief Minister.
Sir, on the basis we are now the 13th of July, sir, an awful lot has gone through. I'm not, I couldn't say yes or no whether I've been advised of it or not, sir. What I will say, sir, is there is a policy on the MyGov site, sir, which does clarify the position, for example, on annual leave and on changes to flexi time and pay during coronavirus, sir. But I will make sure it is raised at the SEB just to make sure that everybody is in the same place, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Pamplin has a question for the Health Minister.
Thank you, sir. Given the response today during question time and the new information and preempting my proposition, can the Health Minister provide us an update of how many people now in isolation result of the positive cases that have gone up, and the reason for the increase to 32 hours currently that was stated earlier in the turnaround of testing? Thank you.
Minister.
So there are 9 known active cases in the island today. All are asymptomatic. They've been identified from various sources, as I've said, 4 in total through arrival screening, 4 through the planned workforce screening. It was always understood we were very likely to pick up asymptomatic cases that way. 1 has been identified through an admission to hospital or a care home, but remains asymptomatic. So 9 in all, sir. And the turnaround time, sir, may have marginally increased. I understand there were some technical difficulties at 1 point over this weekend, resulting in the rise to 32 hours. Thank you,
quick
sir.
supplementary, sir. Can the Minister explain what those technical difficulties were? But again, the question I asked was how many people are in isolation as a result of those positive cases, i.e. people who may be travelling with or came into contact, and that goes back to my earlier question about the contact tracing. What can you tell us about that?
Minister.
So just to clarify, the technical difficulties I was alluding to were the results of the JT outage, which of course disrupted so many services. But there has been, sir, a contact tracing as a result of those 9 cases. I've not been made aware of any further persons who may have, well, there's obviously no further cases identified, but it is very likely, in fact, I know of some additional people who would be placed in isolation, self-isolation. I don't know the composite number arising from all those 9 people. That is, I don't know the number of people who are now required to self-isolate as a result of being contacts. Thank you, sir.
I'm afraid we didn't hear what you said after you didn't know the number of people who were self-isolating owing to being in contact.
You could. Everybody else.
Hope only everyone else could hear that apart from me.
Yes, I think I've finished then. So we know that when an active case is found, our test and tracing team will do sterling work and make contact with the regular contacts of those cases. And when they meet the threshold, those contacts will be required to self-isolate. Now that, for any particular case, could mean a very small number of people or might mean a large number of people, and that will change daily. So those cases are not normally reported to me as ministers, and I'm not aware of the position today, but there will be additional people other than those 9 who are required to self-isolate, and those people will be contacted and a line of communication established with our test and trace team. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I hope that I have called on everyone who is in the chat for a first question and indeed a second question, making sure that that is the case. I do believe that I have, and I now call upon Deputy Morell to ask a third question, this time of the Minister for the Environment. If I've neglected anyone in the chat, I don't believe I have, then please let me know now. Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister for the Environment update the Assembly as to the progress he has made in ensuring that the planning enforcement team is up to speed and fully staffed due to it having been operating with reduced numbers during the COVID outbreak? And in that vein, would he also give an appraisal of where the planning department is in processing applications because he's slowed down? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Better news here in this one. I spoke to the Director General this morning and had an update from him. And he's the process of release of the regulatory people team from the COVID tracing into regulation has been slow, but the planning officers now should be. There has been a transfer back from this week, and we should see that increase. Also, I'm also told that the approval is being sought for the part of the implementation of the target operating model, an early approval, which will increase the enforcement team to 5, up from its complement of 3. Of course, it has been running on 1.5. So I think that's good news, and I'd be hopeful we will see the results of that fairly soon, sir.
Thank you, sir. And I also asked. Oh, yes, please, sir. And the planning department itself, the processing and planning applications, has the department been able to improve the quite understandable kind of decline in the rate of processing because of the COVID-19 crisis, but has the department been able to increase that rate of application process? Thank you, sir.
Yes, I think I spoke about this on the last settings, and I spoke about this in the last state's hearing, and we did take quite a dip, but it's come up, and I undertake to regularly report the improvement until we can come back to the target times. I think we're going to be affected as also with the progress of the throughput of the planning committee, and of course the deputy will remember that up to now we've not been able to get planning inspectors in the islands to do appeals, and I'm hopeful we could pick up on that.
Thank you.
Deputy Gardner has a question for the Health Minister. Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. Would the medical advisors review their prediction of 1 case per 7,000 visitors in light of the recent positive cases that arrived in Jersey, and will revise Safe Country list accordingly?
Minister.
So I think when we discussed the policy, the figures given, I don't think they were ever called a prediction. I think they were a best estimate. And of course they were, what was discussed was the prevalence rates in the UK at the time. But since then, we have also introduced a different policy relating to passengers coming in who may have travelled through amber or red countries. So insofar as we may have had some in from different areas of the world, it would be looking at world prevalence in that case. But most of our passengers do come in from the UK. The rates in the UK, we know, are still falling, fortunately. And all those passengers have to declare, sir, that they are asymptomatic when they travel. And the advice to them when they arrive is to take precautions, self-isolate, and await the results of their test. So I believe, sir, our policy is still appropriate, and it is right to keep the ports open. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, just to clarify, it means that our best estimates still remain 1 to 7,000 passengers arriving from the UK.
Minister.
I think it was the 3rd of April that the ports were open, so that we've only had about 9 or 10 days travel so far. It is just too early, I think, to make that sort of huge assessment. So we've got to let the policy continue for a while, and then it is under constant review, and we will determine whether the rates show any differently. Oh, did I say April? I'm sorry, I meant July, sir. So 9 or 10 days of our policy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Tadeo has a question for the Health Minister. Deputy Tadeo.
Thank you, sir. Is the Health Minister aware of the difficulty that some patients who are being prescribed medicinal cannabis are having to go through in order to get their prescriptions on island, because they can't use a UK prescription to redeem it effectively at a Jersey pharmacy under the law?
Yes, sir. I'm aware of the issue, and I share the view of the Chief Pharmacist that we should maintain the requirement for doctors to be registered in Jersey. You don't have to be registered, a resident in Jersey, in order to be registered, but by keeping the requirement to register locally, we can maintain some control over who can prescribe, as we could therefore suspend or cancel local registration should any problem arise. So it is possible for UK-based prescribers to register in Jersey. However, that would require an amendment to the misuse of drugs order, and no amendment can take place without me first consulting the Misuse of Drugs Advisory Council. I've therefore asked the Chief Pharmacist whether it would be appropriate to do this, and I await his advice, because I can see that for those persons who are receiving an import license to bring in their prescribed medicine, the ability for local pharmacies to dispense that might be advantageous, providing we can maintain proper controls. Thank you, sir.
Can I have a supplementary?
Yes.
So just to clarify from the Minister, because we're not talking about changing GPs' ability to prescribe or allowing UK GPs to prescribe in Jersey per se, but the question is about whether or not we can change the law to allow prescriptions from the UK to be dispensed legally by a Jersey pharmacy. Can the Minister confirm whether he thinks he's minded to do that following consultation with the Medical Council?
Well, sir, I will act on advice. Those who sit on the council are probably far more aware of any risks or benefits than I might be at this stage. So I will await that advice before making any firmer commitment. But the Deputy has my assurance that I'm aware of the matter, and I'm taking the steps I've outlined. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That completes the questions from all ministers without notice.
Sir.
There are no matters under J or K on the order paper.
So may I propose the adjournment?
And
sir.
The adjournment proposed by Senator Farnham. Is it seconded?
Yes, sir.
It's seconded.
Yeah, yes, sir.
My chat, I think, is frozen again.
So I did understand that we're trying to get in.
Yes, that's right. I think he is, sir. I imagine it's about a questions answer.
Sorry, Senator Gorst, can I invite you to repeat that?
Deputy Lewis, the Minister for Infrastructure, has been seeking to intervene. I can only imagine it's in regard to one of his answers. I wonder, so if you could go to him, please.
Thank you. I didn't see that in the chat. Deputy Lewis?
Yes, indeed, sir. Very briefly, sir. Earlier on this afternoon, sir, the Constable of St Bernard inadvertently implied I was not on my brief with La Route de Genève. La Route de Genève is indeed scheduled to be resurfaced and strengthened between January and March 2021, not far away, between Red Houses and the junction with Woodbine Corners. So the constable can take his bike and ride the entire length without losing any fillings. Thank you, sir.
Well, without you, presumably. You're not cycling anymore. Right, you, the adjournment has been proposed, I think, by Senator Farnham, and presumably was seconded by someone.
Second, sir.
Does any other member wish to speak? I take it as the wish of the Assembly to adjourn now until 9:30 tomorrow morning. State stands adjourned.